Hello, welcome to Plat VALORANT. What episode is it? 68. God, I love the number 68. It's
so close to another number.
It's so close to 67, and yet it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That was last week's episode.
That was last week.
Yeah, well,
we already did that one.
Last week's episode was even better. Actually, that's a goddamn lie, and I don't know why I said it, because this week's episode, we've got these knuckleheads have made their top 20 players heading into Berlin, and it was going to be Baller on this episode.
Yeah.
And so I was just going to have the pleasure of not being involved and letting all four of the other people make their lists, and I would roast them because I was the only one that even bothered to make one for Berlin. And now instead I've been sucked into this nonsense, and I spent an hour last night, more than an hour, on stream just molding about it.
So hard.
It's a terrible concept.
It's so hard to do.
I hate you, specifically Fion from Upcomer, for putting this idea into our heads and starting us off down this path, because it's impossible. But that's later on anyway. Did you enjoy it though? Did you enjoy that?
What?
Making a top 20 list.
No. No, I didn't. I enjoyed it less than the one we did where we did the NA players.
Yeah.
A while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed this less than that one. This one was far more difficult. It's so just hard. There's no.
We'll talk about it.
There's no.
We'll get into it because I think we all. Yeah.
I've got a special surprise for everybody though as well, which is went to the PO box recently. If you're not aware, Plat has a PO box where you can send things.
Did we get any like more cool foreign snacks?
Yeah, well, last time I went to the PO box, Vanity had sent us some ketchup potato chips, and they were pretty nice. I mean, they're almost a little polarizing. Bren knows what's coming.
He's looking. I mean, you could. Yeah. It is a foreign object of sorts.
Yeah, it's a foreign object.
That's what I mean. That is what the doctors call it when you go to the emergency room.
Yeah,
relating to disasters involving it.
Mm-hmm. And you say, oh, I slipped and fell on
a foreign object.
Foreign object.
Yeah.
So when I went to the PO box, I picked up a couple of packages, and none of them said Plat VALORANT. So I took them to the Plat Overwatch podcast, and I opened up this. And it's very much not a reference from Plat Overwatch. Right. This is the kind of degenerate shit that could only spawn from one of our co-streams.
That's a nice bag.
I mean, it's a lovely bag, isn't it?
It's a nice
gold bag.
Lovely bag. Almost looking like there's something alive in here.
Oh, wow. What's that?
What could it be?
That is a tail.
It's kind of furry.
Oh,
looks to be like...
Did they ship you a memento? Perhaps a stuffed animal?
Looks to be a tail.
Okay, so it's attached to an animal.
Well, that's interesting. The card that fell out says that this has come from the Sexy Fox shop. Genuine pleasure, genuine fur. Thank you for your order.
Wait, genuine fur. This is real fur. That's
Note
horrendous.
says "Merry Christmas" from Jimmy the Rabbit.
Jimmy the Rabbit.
Doesn't. Yeah, it does.
Can I have
and
a
it's
look
from
at
the
note?
Sexy Foxy shop. You can find them on Etsy if you're looking for some holiday pleasure.
So it's a local business. It's a small business.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Small
handmade
business. Small business. A rabbit buying a fox. Something weird about that. Just for starters. Something weird about that. I'm not sure how much more of the tail we can show. Honestly.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more of it.
Yeah, I mean...
But I mean, I'll show it to you guys.
Yeah.
You know? It's wrapped up.
It's wrapped up. Well, that's good. That means that it hasn't been... It's just...
Actually, that doesn't mean it hasn't been used, because it's wrapped up in polystyrene.
Anybody could have wrapped that up.
Yeah.
But, slink the tail.
You think you get you some usage out of it?
I mean, we got a co-stream coming up.
We do. How many buy round points?
Oh no, I lost all my points on the first game. What can I do to get back in the buy round?
Well, Jimmy the Rabbit, you've ruined this episode right from the very beginning. So thank you for that. I wish that had never happened, but unfortunately now it's ruined both of our podcasts this week. So
my phone to move.
Before we, I found it on Etsy, and apparently you don't have to stick the butt plug up your bum. There's a tie that
then what else
with
is
it
the
too.
point of it?
There's a tie with it too.
What do you tie it to though?
a belt, I guess.
Yeah,
Your
probably
waist?
something on your
A large hemorrhoid. Just lash it up.
I mean,
Yeah.
all right, time to move on.
Okay,
Is this a Valorant
I mean,
yeah, sorry,
I mean, now it's
sorry.
time to move
That
on.
really is horrendous. Okay, let's talk about some. Let's talk about some Valorant stuff.
I mean, yeah, just move on.
Let's talk about some Valorant stuff.
I was gonna circle back.
No.
I was gonna try and rendezvous, kind of
No
regroup
circling.
mentally.
No circling.
I think we need
Let's
to
go.
regroup mentally and
I
get
wanna
to
move
the
on.
Valorant.
I think we need to go somewhere totally different, okay?
Oh.
There was a report this week. Actually, it wasn't even a report. There was a report previously talking about G2 looking to pick up some Giants members. We were theorizing on the show. Perhaps they're looking into Vitinho. Oh, David P tweeted out some stuff saying, oh, not like this. Well, the Giants have then posted a tweet saying that 3 of their players have been like approved for transfer to a different org. They didn't mention the org, but presumably it is G2. And it's not who I was expecting at all.
Yeah.
It's, in fact, Hoodie, Meadow, and then Pipson, who's their coach, a former player that used to IGL for them and has moved into a coaching position. I have a lot of faith in Pipson. He's done a great job with Giants. But then Meadow, the Sentinel player, and Hoodie, a Sova who's previously played Jett in the past, that's weird pieces to add to G2, no?
Yeah, is Hoodie playing Sova these days as well?
I believe
I
so.
feel like recently they've been putting Hoodie in, I don't know, situation. I mean, maybe I've just been only watching the games where he's been playing weird stuff, like the Phoenix on Haven and Viper. And actually, yeah, he's playing Viper on Fracture. I can't take anything from that, but
I mean, is Meadow weird? I mean, they need a Sentinel player, right? With Pith being gone. So
they just weren't
like,
the players that jumped out in my mind when I thought of players getting poached from Giants.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't at all, actually, though, right? Bren, you're completely correct. I mean, I must be thinking of a totally different time because he's been playing mostly Sage stuff and a variety of other flex. I mean, that is a true flex kind of
playing a bunch of different
look.
stuff.
Yeah.
Which can be very valuable in a player who's willing to experiment with the team or what they need, or a concept, an idea that you might have on a map. Like, it's all well and good having players that are comfortable playing certain things, but having a role player can be very valuable. I don't really have strong opinions though about it because they haven't said they're moving to G2, have they? But it's just, the implication is so strong.
They would need a Sentinel, especially if Mixwell is just going to be going back to Jett, which looks like it very well may be the case. Also, they have a need for a coach now, so it looks like the pieces of the puzzle certainly are aligned, right?
Yeah.
Except they're not really. That's the weird thing. They kind of it makes sense from what's been reported, but the
it's
actual
a puzzle
roles
of the Eiffel Tower in Vegas and then the actual Eiffel Tower, and they kind of go together, but not really.
Yeah, pretty much, because they don't have an IGL if they add those players. I don't think either of those players have IGL'd properly in the past, and they would then be moving Mixwell to Jett, and then Coldamenta has left them without a Sova player, and I mean, what are they? Maybe Nookie plays the Jett and someone else plays the flex role. It's not natural in terms of the roles, and they still don't have an IGL, which was always the biggest issue with G2.
They have a lot of time. Like, that's the thing with this. I mean, they have a lot of time to try and make it work, no?
Yeah.
To try and find where the roles fit. Because when is the next tournament that's going to be played? For players, for teams that aren't in
January,
champs.
maybe
It
a couple
is.
months.
Like, what, January?
Like
February
2 months,
time?
probably.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I just expected them to be getting Vitinho, really.
Yeah,
Because it seemed to add up. He was playing really well. Also, a Spanish player. So, seems to align in a couple ways there. But
I think Heretics are actually currently looking for a player that would fill that kind of position. So again, that seems natural. Although I think there was some rumors, I haven't been following them properly, but I think there was a different rumor pointing in another direction for Heretics. But again, Vitinho just seems like an obvious option to get snatched up. And I just feel bad in all of this for David P.
Yeah.
Just getting fucked again by
Owned
G2.
by G2
Just
again.
getting owned. Just constantly. The guy's had such a redemption arc as well, in terms of getting to a position where he was even arguably performing better than G2 in recent time. Yeah, he didn't actually make it to Masters, but they've at least been comparable in terms of recent performances, Giants and G2.
They looked really good.
And now his team has just been picked apart. And he was IGLing, and he was playing his same kind of role of being that heavy lurking kind of style, but
he was
getting a lot of
playing
value.
well on it and finding value. So
Even when people know that he's doing it.
So as much as it feels like at times, really, he's still doing this shit and they're still letting him get away with it.
Yeah.
But that means that he has something going for him that is working, that that is not so easy to counter as it may appear when you're just looking at the top-down map and it's like, he's doing it again. Yeah. But he's been playing well, and he overcame a lot, so it is a bit unfortunate. But also, if he is comfortable and wants to continue IGLs are just going to be in demand forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So surely he'll be able to find another home.
Am I wrong in thinking that the biggest part of that acquisition then in this move is the coach, is Pipson? I feel like there's a lot of value in a coach.
To replace Rojo? Is that who they're looking to replace here? Because they
maybe
lost
just add an addition to
G2 lost an analyst, right? Not a coach.
Yeah, but coach, analyst is always kind of vague in terms of
I mean, it's a player coach, right? It's Pipson. It's a player turned coach. So like it would be a player coach role, which is essentially an analyst in many ways. So
it depends how people define them, but I think Pipson's done a great job with that team because a lot of those players were not big, well-known players with a great understanding of how at least I'm reading into this by what they'd previously done on other setups in the past.
Yeah,
they hadn't found that level of success and that level of coordination until David P was coming into that team, and they had Pipson move into a coaching role as well.
Mm-hmm. And it was also some of the guys who were just booted from the top teams. The top teams felt couldn't compete at that level for them, and then they were able to with a different team with upcoming players. But I mean, do we feel that if this is the G2 5, how are we feeling about it? Excited?
Nope.
I'm just a little bit confused about the roles.
I mean, I'm not excited. I'm not excited.
Yeah.
I'm in a state of okay.
Yeah, it's also hard when we don't have any sort of indicator from tournaments of like how a team is roughly going to be performing. Like we don't know how the roles might end up working as well. It's a lot of time until we next see a lot of these teams here. It could work out. It could also just make a lot more changes in the meantime, depending on what works. We don't know the full situation of what's going on.
I was doing some VOD reviews recently of G2's maps at the Red Bull home ground, where they kind of bombed out. They didn't do too well, but when I was looking at them...
They know at that point? I think they knew beforehand, right? That the team wasn't continuing.
Yeah, but they still had some really nice ideas. Like the calls and the reactions and the decision-making and like their plan for the round were good. It's the execution and the timings and the details all were what was falling to pieces. And so... I worry that this team is just going to go backwards, if anything, from they're trying to integrate new pieces and they have lost that IGL. I mean, what is this roster going to do without an IGL? Never mind the roles being all over the place. Meadow's such a hard sentinel when things might be going out into a different direction. I don't know. I have less faith in the roster that's purported to be putting together than the one that they had now.
Yeah,
I think there were improvements to be made, but I think they've actually gone backwards, and that might just be because they felt like those were the only options available. But like you said, Bren, they have time.
They do.
There aren't tournaments until January, February, and Carlos has the keys to the European castle. He has the money to spill out to the poor and get them towards him, and instead they've made this decision that doesn't seem to add up on paper. Really weird.
Does Mixwell lock them into this weird situation? Because you would think that after Kellogg's LAN performance, if you were to build around those two duelists of like Kellogg's and Nuki, you would like try to move your roster around there. But it seems pretty obvious that they're never going to let go of Mixwell, or at least not immediately. Yeah. He's baked into G2, like he's a firmament of the G2 Valorant building that is being created. Essentially, it is a Spanish pillar. So I'm wondering, like, is this hurting their chances here? Because you would think that like there's potential to grow with Kellogg's after that LAN performance. There's a lot of potential to grow there, and it seems that they're willing to let him go, to let Mixwell go back to duelist, and then just bring in Meadow to play Sentinel here. Yeah. So when I look at that from the outside in, I'm like, does Mixwell's performance, is he worth dropping Kellogg's and the potential there to hold on to Mixwell just because of his content creation side? Essentially, is what we're looking at.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think they're also banking
that's
on his
very
Jett
reasonable.
getting back to a place where it could compete with the top tier, and I think that's copium. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's wishing for what has passed. To be honest, I think Mixwell would benefit from continuing in his position, playing Sentinel kind of stuff, and just dedicating himself to it instead of thinking about it as a temporary or required shift.
Yeah, especially because Kellogg's was cracked. I mean, like his Berlin performance was incredible.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
a
like it's like
bit of an outlier.
if you can replicate that, it was an outlier. But but the thing is, he's a young player, right?
Yeah.
He's a very young player. Like I think there's room to grow.
And
with
to
a
be
player
fair,
like
it's
that,
better
right?
to have a player that turns up on land and turns down.
Exactly.
but
but
I mean,
Mitchell had a
yeah.
decent performance at LAN as well. Like he
In the-
didn't have a bad performance, right?
In the
But-
current VCT system, it's actually better to have a team
Online
that's good
performer.
online
Yeah.
because there's way more that happens online. I mean, even the rumors about what the 2022 system looks like contains a lot of online play and like a limited number of LAN events. So you got to expect. I mean, Kellogg's being a LAN player is great, but if you don't get to LAN in the first place and they aren't planning on like giving out invites to those events to big organizations, you have to earn your spot there, and they failed to do that through LCQ. And I feel like that's got to be in the back of their minds as well. This guy's great when we get there, but fuck if he can't get us there, that's a problem. Anyway, bit of a strange move to start this off, but the rest of the episode is purely Champions related. And this episode is brought to you in partnership with Manscaped. Slid that one in there, no problemo. Whoa, whoa, dodge the nuts.
Oh, the Christmas
Put on your
theme.
3D glasses for that one, folks.
Yeah, here we go. So you can save 20% off at manscaped.com with code VALOCHAT20. And at the moment, there is a Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of thing.
I don't know
going
if
on
it
as
stacks,
well.
by the way.
Well, you know, you
But
still
even
use
still,
our code.
use the code
Either way,
anyway.
if you are buying stuff during the Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, which is the 22nd to the 29th, so you still got some time when you're watching this video probably to go and buy a gift for the holidays or something like that. You will, at minimum, get 25% off because there's a site-wide 25% off sale. And then there's free shipping, and normally there's 20% off with our code VALOCHAT20. So use the code anyway. See if it stacks. If it doesn't, you're still getting more than you would on a regular episode.
you're so kind.
Go for it. Huh?
You're so kind.
Kind to who?
Just
not
so
me
generous.
handing these things out.
Setting all that up.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're so kind.
I know.
The
So
Christmas spirit.
yeah, well, you talk about the Christmas spirit. Jingle balls to the walls, fellas. Listen up. Here's my sponsored read. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past, and it's possible that you have Santa's beard in your pants.
I'm going to get my water.
It's time to leave. Bren, where are you going? It's time to leave your significant other some cookies and milk at the bottom of your chimney.
I mean, we can imagine what that euphemism means.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. That's
Right.
actually what I was talking about there, nothing else.
Okay.
Don't know what else you were talking about.
course.
Anyway, inside the Performance Package 4.0, if you're looking to buy it as a gift for somebody, they have the Lawnmower 4.0 with an electric trimmer and skin-safe technology to reduce the chances of nicking yourself when you're shaving down there, which is never a pleasant time. And it's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It makes a great gift anyway, and it's one of the best products that, I mean, it's the best product that I've used when it comes to keeping things tidy down there.
Personal grooming.
Personal grooming, exactly. So, yeah, go to manscaped.com, save 20% off with our code, and there's 25% off the entire site during this week if you're able to go out there. All right, let's talk champions, though. And we'll start with the skin review.
Wow.
Skin review. Because not only
This is a big one.
not only are there new skins to the game for Magepunk 2.0,
Okay.
but there are actual champion skins in the game.
Yeah.
And
I
we
saw the
didn't know
Magepunk first.
how,
reveal today.
we didn't know to what degree they were actually going to be champions related. We were talking about like, oh, well, maybe it's just like a spray or
Yeah.
something.
Sure.
I've been,
Little banner.
yeah, little banner, something like that.
Gun buddy.
Oh no,
Y'all wanna
No,
do
they
a
said
Magepunk
fuck you to
first?
that one.
They got some proper integration. Kurt, can you fire up the old?
What
the
do you want,
furnaces?
Magepunk or
I
the
thought we
other
should
one?
start in with the Magepunk.
Oh,
Yeah.
start with the
Transition
Magepunk.
into
That's
the.
what I was thinking.
Oh,
yeah.
banger.
sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's start things out simple then. Magepunk 2.0.
Oh, what is this? Whoa! Where do we get this one?
The new graphic just dropped.
New graphic dropped as well?
Holy.
All right, the shock gauntlet.
Uh-huh.
I feel like this one's going to be won or lost by the animation.
I mean, it's quite cool. It's quite a cool animation.
Does it have like a electrocution upon hitting, and like does it have a finisher that's an electrocution or something?
It's probably the same finisher as all the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Where it's puts you in a little glass valve.
I like the purple
they're
one.
colour schemes.
Variations.
I like the purple.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah.
What, like a gold
Well,
kind
how
of
much
color?
is this though?
$71 for the whole bundle.
I mean, it's the same price as the
Yeah.
cartoon ones.
Yeah.
But that's some incredible kind of competition. So Magepunk is like steampunk but magic rather than steam.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also it's like it's very reminiscent of like if you've watched Arcane, it's very reminiscent of like the art style that they've done for Arcane in the world of like Piltover, etc. So in some ways, to me,
I'm personally not a fan of this skin design, but I know the thing that's got people up in arms with this was that there was no rifles included.
It's only
like in terms of like the primary rifles, like the Phantom and the Vandal.
Right.
It's what is it? The Guardian, Ares.
I mean, it has Op and the Sheriff. Those are pretty.
Yeah.
it's got almost everything
What's the Op
except
looking like?
the actual rifles.
I kind of like that the operator
Op's
top
pretty
looks like a
cool.
telescope. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Pops
the little
open.
pop cap.
Pops open.
Yeah. The Op is cool. Honestly, still though, the best Magepunk skin is the Ghost from the first one. I'm gonna say it.
I can't remember what that
Magepunk
looks like.
Ghost.
Wasn't that released like
The
4 years
commenters
ago?
know. Yeah.
The commenters know. What
The
does the sheriff?
commenters know what I'm talking
I actually
about.
think the sheriff looks like it could beam. I'm not gonna lie.
No, the sheriff is cool. The sheriff, I think, is
Yeah.
actually one of the coolest skins in the entire pack.
Well, they recently released an Arcane Sheriff as well,
Yeah.
right? So they.
Did you do a skin review for that?
No, I don't think we
No.
did because it was
Oh,
only,
we didn't.
Wasn't
No,
it only
yeah.
like a single thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't
it was like
think
a
it was-
limited time.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was
an
just
entire
the
bundle.
sheriff. It was the gun that like Jinx used or something, I think.
Sure. Yeah, we're all big League of Legends fans here. We know what we're talking about.
I've been watching Arcane. I watched Arcane. I
Yeah.
think it's actually a pretty decent, like, when it comes to video game content, like, and media, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's good even when people don't follow League. I'm
I
planning to
didn't know
watch it at
shit
some
about
point
League
just
when
to see.
I was watching. I didn't know shit about it, but I was just like, I'm gonna watch it. So
Yeah. Well, what are you thinking about this? I've got to say, it hasn't got me.
I will not be copying.
Okay. Connor, you're the Arcane watcher. Is this tickling enough kind of ties with the show?
If you're a dork that loves steampunk, you would like this. But I think I think overall that this is like compared to the cartoon one, the cartoon comic book one is like sick. It's dope. If you love steampunk and you're over there with your whirring cogs and machinery and shit, like you're gonna love this one, but not me. Like that's no. No copy.
Okay. You're more agricultural revolution than industrial. Are you?
yeah.
You're a farmer. You like to till the fields. Brian, what are you thinking?
I do kind of like the sheriff, but I'm going with no across the board because I don't know. It's just too. It's just not for me.
It doesn't have the rifles. It doesn't have the rifles.
Yeah, it doesn't have the
either. If you wanted whole
rifles.
pack,
I
it doesn't
mean,
have the rifles.
that's for the later pack, you know.
You can't buy everything. You got to save your money somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm afraid this is going to be this is going to be me saving my money. Frankly, I think I've already spent more money on this game than I've ever spent on another game, just because I copped that cartoon bundle. And you know what? Don't regret it. I really should, and I feel kind of ashamed that I don't regret it, but I really don't. It's still awesome, and it's way better than this for the same price. So, get this Magepunk stuff out of my face, Kurt.
Oh wow!
Now get the
I
new
ain't copping this.
new exclusive champions up there.
Show me champion skins.
Get that exclusive
Now,
shit.
This
up
kind
there.
of blew all of our expectations and like the integration with champs out of the water. I think these champion skins. Like,
Well, I'm
I
not
was
actually
not
aware.
expecting-
I saw a
haven't
teaser.
seen it?
No, I tried to keep myself virgin
okay.
fresh for this segment.
I've seen
Oh, you
it.
haven't seen any of it?
I saw
It's-
one pop-up of the Vandal, and that's it. And I don't know how they integrate with champions at all.
Yeah.
So,
this is
I've been
talk to
Here
me.
it is.
Talk to me.
Ryan Central hit scan did a little video.
It is very cool.
It
The
looks
Vandal.
So that's
Oh.
not even the coolest part.
One thing I want to know about
Not even
the Vandal, does it fire out? What's the projectiles looking like?
I mean,
You know
you'll
what I mean?
you'll
What-
see.
what would
This
it-
is
you'll see in
Ryan
this- in
Central
this video.
hit scans.
You know what?
Video, right?
Immediately, the first thing I think is it looks like when you apply skins to the guns in CS. That kind of shiny, almost like peeled holographic sticker look reminds me of when people put like the expensive major stickers onto their AK in CS.
Yeah.
It has that same kind of vibe to me.
It's very cool. The knife is also very cool. You'll see in the video as well.
Oh, that knife
We're going
is
through.
pretty excellent.
New animations of the karambit.
Oh, really?
Yep, new animations of the karambit.
I haven't seen the karambit yet.
Both of them, by the way, I think glow. They have a very clean, kind of like golden glow around them if you're top fragging on the server.
Whoa, no way, really?
Yep.
Oh,
which
that's
is
so fucking good.
That's some good shit, some kill chasing going on.
Yeah, that is actually dope.
Give me those
Not
eco
even
frags.
the coolest part.
Yeah,
Also,
not even the coolest part, by the way.
It plays music while you're inspecting.
Yeah,
like
really?
the Z one. It plays like the Champions theme
Oh, it plays
music.
the Champions?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fucking dope.
Yeah.
No,
And then,
but the
Oh,
best.
and the Champions like lights up. Dude, that
Yeah, it
skin
lights
is
up.
amazing.
It's very
but
cool.
you need to look at the finisher.
yeah.
The finisher,
When you see the finisher, you're gonna
Show us the finisher.
you're gonna lose your fucking mind when you see the
You got,
finisher.
you gotta see
cookies
it. We
and
gotta
cream at the under the tree or whatever
Under the
that
tree.
Cat said.
Okay.
Oh,
it's
that
really, really good. But they have, I think overall this skin pack, I was really impressed with how like cool it looks for something that's integrated directly with champs. And like also they're once again integrating it wider once we see the actual like finisher. I'm not gonna spoil it with some of their wider products, I guess, and like marketing campaigns. So it's like fucking sick.
Where I mean, stop tickling my balls, my perfectly manicured balls.
it's about.
Thanks to Manscaped. Where?
I think about.
Where's
Oh, you're
the
gonna see
finisher?
it.
Oh, okay. So this is the finisher.
Oh,
But no. Oh, that's
Wait,
not
wait,
it.
wait, wait.
That's not it. That's not it.
But that's
No,
not.
wait.
That's not. Yeah,
Pause.
wait for it. So the finisher. You've seen the
Pause it.
music video,
I've
right?
seen the music video. We're going to
Brim-
talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's like Atlas holding up the Earth.
Yes.
That's the
So,
reference.
like, that's
Dude,
the
that's
reference.
that would just be incredible on its own. And what is it
No.
pumping the
It plays
song?
the song. Yeah, it's like a.
Plays the song, yeah.
It's a DMCA free song that played. They confirmed that it's you can't get copyright striked for using the skin.
God, that's so good. Okay.
And there's an additional part. If I don't know what circumstance you would ever be doing this, but when you go inside the globe,
Oh shit! That's
brimstone. Yeah, it's brimstone, like from the music video,
that's
holding up the globe.
that's absurd and wonderful.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
so everyone's just gonna be trying to get the finisher and then run at the body of the person that they just killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
It's so cool though because they
Pretty
integrate it
insane.
with their wider campaign for this too. Like it's literally referencing the music video and their previous art styles and the marketing content for that. Like it's so cool how with each of these skins, like I don't think the skin is necessarily revolutionary in terms of like its looks, but that you can also now include your wider marketing campaign and awareness
Yeah.
around it. And as part of the finisher, that's just the level of like vertical integration here. The Borpa business is out of control. It's literally out of control.
It really is. It is actually out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet. And then also one of the main other additional points to this is that it's like 50% of the revenue from these skins just goes to the teams at Champions.
Oh wait,
Goes to every
really?
team.
Yeah.
50%.
It goes to the prize pool. Goes to the prize pool.
No, not the prize.
No, it
pool.
doesn't go to the prize pool.
just
it
the
just goes
teams?
to the team.
Goes to the
Wait,
team.
Kurt, if you
Oh,
go
I
back
thought
to
it
the
was
screen you were
prize-
just on.
Nope.
If you just go back to that like opening screen that had some text in the top left, yeah, there. If you take our faces off, we'll be able to read that. That's talking about it. That says the 50% thing there too.
Oh, that's so fun. So it's just direct to them.
Oh, I've just
Yes.
trolled
so
Kurt,
sick.
I think. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
But it
it's-
says 50%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the
it
team
goes.
go to
It's
the
just
champs.
50% that just goes to the teams.
I don't know how, because people were assuming that would just get split to the players. I don't know if it would.
No,
I think
I
it
think
just
that'll go
goes
to
to the
organizations.
orgs
Yeah.
themselves. They actually, I mean, they haven't really clarified it, but
That's the kind of thing though that players are not going to negotiate for until it's a proven concept within the game.
It's the same thing that happened in CS when they started doing those team stickers
Yeah.
and how those splits ended up going because those generate a shitload of revenue.
this is so
Yeah.
much better though, as well, because when it's shared across all 16 teams, teams like Sentinels are always going to be more popular than teams like, I don't know, Team Secret
Yeah,
or
it's
X10.
huge for those guys.
And the fact that they have one cohesive skin that they've released, that gets split with the revenues, obviously, between all of them, it means that it's like Riot can put all of their effort into making a really cool skin every champs now, and it's like it's an incentive for orgs across the world, if it really pops the fuck off, to really want to get into Valorant and really actually get a team that will win and go to champs. Because it's another form of revenue for the teams to be invested in the scene.
And it makes
it's
it better. It makes it better, actually, to be a great team in a bad region because you're more likely to make it to champions with more consistency, you know? So even though there might be more opportunities year round, for a North American organization, if you can pretty much guarantee that you've got the best talent in Southeast Asia or Japan or Brazil or whatever, and you get to champions and you're pretty confident you're going to get there, this is, in some sense, guaranteed revenue for you at the end of it, depending on how you negotiate that split with your players. So great incentives for people to invest in the smaller regions too.
Yeah.
I think it's very
It
cool.
also clamped down on, I think, on like the global arms race that is prize pool in esports occasionally, where like it's like, yo, this tournament's cool, but also this next tournament that has double the prize pool just come out, so it's a better tournament, even though because the prize pool is bigger. And it's like by initially putting down this culture of it's not the prize pool that matters for the tournaments, it's the prestige of like being in the event early. I think that's overall a good trajectory for what you want out of your esports ecosystem moving forward, is that it's not the prize pool that's defining the prestige of the tournament, it's the actual name itself and like what the end of being the best.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty sick. I mean, it would be one thing if they just had a great system, but the skin itself wasn't that great. But I think they've actually nailed all aspects of it for me.
It just needs, the only thing that's missing for me is I don't, from the video I didn't really see it, but I need a visual effect when the rifle's shooting. Like some change in the particle effects, you know what I mean?
What do you? No, I don't know what you mean.
Because like default Vandal skins, you buy like the rare Vandal skins.
Yeah.
They don't have an additional visual effect that you can upgrade. Where, for example, the Prime Vandal shoots lasers.
And I see.
You know,
yeah.
The default Vandal just sounds like a default Vandal, and some of the lower quality skins. I don't know if it has the. It doesn't look like it.
It looks like it's a normal Vandal in terms of what it shoots.
But I think the actual flash of it is like exaggerated.
Yeah, the flash is exaggerated, but it's animation. There's something about a Prime Vandal that is just pay to win. You know what I mean? And it's hard to replace it because it just beams.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's the only gripe I have with it. But overall, the concept and idea behind sharing the revenue with the teams is fantastic. And
you wish it shot like little trophies.
Yeah,
just every bullet was a trophy.
Every bullet was a face of a certain player at that champs.
Why is this, by the way? Why does it just suddenly go to person screaming in the middle of Ryan's video?
I think that's the music video.
Oh, right.
So I think that's where he's discussing and saying he's playing the songs you inspected.
I see. Well, that's pretty sick. Are we set up on the scene for the cop and the drop as well? I think this is going to be a rare cop for me. I think it is.
It's a Vandal.
Wait, what's the price, Kurt? Does it say that anywhere? Bundle price.
I think it's
and extra stuff.
Quite expensive.
What's the price?
I think it's quite expensive for the two of them.
I would cop the Vandal because it's a Vandal.
Right. Okay.
No, I mean, it's a cool Vandal skin.
It is, yeah.
I use the Vandal. I would cop the Vandal. I think the knife's cool, but I just like the Vandal. So I would get
Simple,
if I was going to cop anything, it would be the Vandal.
Connor, cop or drop?
I'm actually not a knife simp. I'm always much more of a rifle skin enjoyer. You know, the Chad rifle enjoyer versus the Virgin knife like lover. You know, so like I think the skin's cool.
Very American
I
of
actually do
you.
like the exaggerated flash, like the actual shooting flash of it. I think it looks kind of cool. Just that exaggerated animation of it. And from just a interest in the esports scene and also loving how well they've integrated this into champs, I would cop 50% of my cop would be for that reason. So I would cop just because I think they've done such a good job integrating it. Almost it's more of me appreciating the product they've created more so than just loving the skin itself. Though I do think the skin itself is actually still really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cop. I'll put it out
Bren, does it replace your Prime Vandal? Is it this a cop?
I actually think it would.
Really?
Even though I like the Prime Vandal, but like I would buy it just because of the revenue sharing system that they've got with the teams, because I think it's so fucking cool that they're doing that. But the skins are also sick. Like I would buy the whole bundle, like for sure.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah,
They really have Borpa business to this.
They have.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a sponsored segment.
It feels
I know,
like it.
but it's so.
It does.
It's so
just
well
general
done. Though.
appreciation.
No, you actually have to appreciate the fucking layers of marketing here. It is so well done.
Yeah,
it's so smart. I mean,
how
that's
does it
pretty
tie
cool.
into Arcane?
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
The little spinny, I didn't see that before. That might change.
That's even more of a cop.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Well, I didn't realize that we probably should have done the music video review before we looked at the skin, because I didn't realize that the two were integrated. It is incredible vertical Borpa business. Let's talk about the Champions music video though, because there was an exclusive song made for Valorant Champions, and then there was also this animated video that goes along with it. It's by Grabbit. I think the guy had like 20k followers before this as well, by the way. And it incorporates the Valorant, like the entry theme as you're loading into a map.
Yeah.
It's like dun 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 dun. I can't exactly remember how it goes, but that's the bass line as the drop hits as well, which I only just realized recently too. And the artists who made this video had like a whole not an interview, but like an article that they wrote about some of the symbology and the reasons that they chose these certain things. But it kind of pounds. It's a bit of a bop, in my opinion.
I like it a lot. I like the video more, to be honest, than the actual song itself. The song isn't my speed, but it's cool how they incorporated the music of Valorant. One thing that I like in future videos when they do this in the future is as well in tying it into the the history of the scene. Obviously, it's the first year, so there's no way for them to tie it into the the players themselves who might be playing at champs. I guess you could do it with some of the most popular ones, but how it all tied in as well into the champion skins and just the art and for this video was just incredible. I don't know. It was a really dope music video.
When they make the League of Legends ones, they use a lot of tie-ins and symbology from the players and from their teams and stuff like that. But I believe they had to start working on the League of Legends Worlds video in October 2020 to get it ready for Worlds in 2021. So, I mean, you can't do that for Valorant because you just had no idea who was possibly even going to be up at the top. And even for League, they have to take a bit of a punt and just hope certain players and teams manage to get there. And maybe there's some tweaking as it gets closer to the end. But I agree that would be cool as it moves forward. But this was a great start.
Yeah, I mean, this is just sick. And the fact that they also then put it as the finisher with Brimstone in the game that you can see from the same perspective where he's cute. It's just sick. It is actually sick.
I think it's a bold move too that they're changing balance as we know it. Where instead of balancing around making Brimstone the character good, they're just going to make all the media around Brimstone really cool, so people will play him. And I think that's the best part about this. That they're redefining game development as we know it.
Do you think it was a reference to the controller-only Brimstone main who made it to Radiant? The fact that they've got Brim using a judge.
Is there somebody that does that?
I think there's like a...
Yeah.
Isn't there like Brimstone?
Are you talking about Dazzner, the Cypher? Are you thinking of the Cypher?
I think I'm thinking of the one Brimstone that was in our game that was using a controller and judge only, and they would use all three of their smokes to create a caterpillar tube of smokes with the judge and try and get kills with it.
Yeah, but that wasn't in Radiant.
That wasn't in Radiant. No, that was our games. And that was a while ago, and that's probably not what they're referring to in this video with Brimstone running in with the judge.
But if they did, that would be even.
Then they're really big Plat chat fans because we talked about that a while ago.
Yeah, the Champions music video as well has this. The more I talk about it, the edgier and artsier it sounds. On your first view through, it just feels cool. It's one of those great pieces of Valorant content where it is edgy and artsy, and the more you dig into it, the more you realize, wow, this really should have been cringy the first time when I watched it. But it isn't the first time you watch it. I don't know whether you had that same experience, any of you. But when I watch a lot of VCT stuff, it's so edgy it should be a little cringy.
But it never is.
but it isn't. And I don't know exactly how they get that line. And
bet
honestly, the more I dug into the music video, the more I was like, God, the themes in here are a bit of a stretch. Like, if this was like a fully fleshed out anime series or something, this would be like horrendous. But something about the way they put it together, I think it's because the animation, the music, and the production is so good. They actually have incredibly talented people working on it. I think they managed to blend it all together in a really well-produced way.
It's just a reminder that the entire marketing, the overarching theme of Valorant is, if you play the game, you're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is Valorant.
Yeah.
If you play
did
it,
a good job
you
with
are
that.
cool, and it's still cool.
Underrated
Yeah.
aspect of all of this as well is them incorporating lore aspects into the music video.
Sure.
Which is just, it's going to sound silly because we're such a hardcore focused podcast, but there are a lot of people that play Valorant that don't really care about the esports side, but they will watch that and they'll be wondering, oh, what's Champs? And they'll watch it because they like Sage and want to know more about Sage as a character.
Yeah.
And because they keep hinting at aspects of her powers in the game through the voice lines.
Yeah.
And like little snippets like this is something that also just ties in the larger, more casual user base and fan base
Definitely.
for the game and ties it into Champs.
Surely they're
all-
going to be
yeah.
they're going to be dropping some lore videos at Champs, right?
Definitely feels like it, doesn't it? I thought we were going to get one on Berlin, but I don't think we ever did.
No.
We got one at Reykjavik, though, no?
Yes.
Reykjavik was the one where the fucking world
It's
split.
cinematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to see the
Yeah.
parallel universe.
They've been saving it up. I mean, that's when they've been releasing everything. They did that Arcane. They have Project L coming out. That's when they announced Valorant 2, and then you can do the Sage character tree, RPG tree, and you can pick her different talents. And they're gonna release that faster.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna continue just releasing everything fucking fast. I think, have you seen, by the way, the in relation to this and sort of it's kind of lore based, is they showed the trophy for Champs.
No, I
Oh,
didn't
really?
see this actually.
I
No, I
didn't see
didn't.
it
Yeah,
either.
and it's kind of lore based. I'll find who. I think our good friend
Mr. Geds.
George Geddes.
Yeah, he tweeted it. Yes, he did. I'll link it in the channel.
Met him at the
Kurt.
Esports Awards. He's a proper
He didn't know
bloke.
who I was.
Valorant channel.
He swaggered up and he was
kinda
like,
cool.
all right, boys. All right, boys.
He was a whirlwind. He like just jumped into the circle. I was like, "Oh, how's it going, Josh?" And then I was like, I was about to say hi to him, and he was already off. He was gone.
Wow. Okay. So this is the Champions Trophy design.
This is the Champions Trophy design.
You will have to
And look,
explain
it's
this
like
to me
this-
because this to me
Because
looks
I'm pretty
like
sure it's referring to remember that split worlds?
yeah.
It's like the two worlds on either
Yeah.
side of like the cube thing.
But
you know?
also-
Right, and the
like-
cube is like Radianite,
Yeah,
I
I'm
guess.
assuming it's
Yeah,
Radiant.
yeah,
That's
It's
what they're all
Radianite,
fighting
but then
for.
No, it's
also
kinda
it's an
lore-based.
hourglass because time and
Is it an
art is
hourglass?
eternal. Because
Yeah, I mean, it's hourglass
Fantasy.
shaped. It's I
long alien.
I really like when esports have creative designs for their trophies. I think going for the classic Chalice style trophy is quite boring. And definitely if you've got the budget to be able to do so, coming up with an interesting style is cool. I would like to see them. What I really love in other games, though, is having the same trophy. Something about the TI lifting the Aegis every year and it being like this
I think they
symbol of
ingrained the
winning.
team and names on it as well. So
Yeah.
it just it's the same Aegis that gets passed around.
Yeah.
If you win it though, you're etched onto it. I think.
That makes sense, sure. And normally they have like a replica version that somebody can take with them as well. But the Overwatch League does that too, but the Overwatch League doesn't have as interestingly unique a trophy design as the International, which is something from the game, you know? Like it's a highly coveted thing that you fight for in the game. It's a mini objective. So I'd love to see Valorant do something like that. This to me doesn't look like something timeless that's always going to be used for champions moving forward, but perhaps it could become that. It's a weird design for a trophy. Like I look at it and I don't see trophy, but I said the same thing for Reykjavik when it looked like a USB stick.
Yeah. True.
I can't
What if
remember the
they
Reykjavik trophy.
make it a living art piece and they just like they bring a sculptor and he sculpts it over time for each champions and it's the same trophy, huh? What if we do that right?
How big is this trophy? if they're
Art is
sculpting it?
eternal.
It's man-sized.
It starts as a giant 6-foot block of marble.
Yes.
and they just slowly chip into it.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. I mean, it's it's.
I'd like to see
Michelangelo
tens
did
lift
it.
that.
Yeah, no, they just carve 10s out of marble. That's the trophy. Just a 10 statue.
Oh,
It eventually just becomes like the Blarney stones, and you have to lift it because it's just a huge. This is what it is. It
Yeah,
just
that's
becomes
cool.
a huge
Where-
stone.
Where
thing.
is this in the game? Is this
got to be
split?
split, right?
Yeah, split is where they had them previously, I think. But I guess they could put them anywhere, honestly.
That was hard to tell.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell.
Probably split. but-
Interesting, though. Interesting.
Very cool.
I wonder what it'll look like in person, because this is just a render that's been put into the game. Okay. Everything's been heating up for Champions. They've released more stuff as well. I'm sure people who are watching right now are like, oh, did you guys see the videos they made about Yay and about Vanity? We'll talk about those in a second, but we wanted to get into one of our meat and potatoes of this of this episode here. It's our top 20 list. Top 20 players at Champions. Whew, everyone take a deep breath. And just to set things up for you again, if you're not aware of this, I did it for Berlin and everyone roasted me for it. And now everyone is doing it for Champions. It started as it's apparently like a well-known thing that a lot of content creators do in League of Legends heading into Worlds. And so a bunch of the content creators that have then come from primarily League, especially Fion, Tyler, who works at Upcomer, was doing it with his show Showstoppers. So if you want to check those guys out, you can go to Upcomer and see them. But we have taken the idea because they wanted us to do our own version too. And it's essentially just a list, 1 to 20, of who you think the best players at Champions are. It sounds kind of simple until you realize it's not at all and it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Also,
you talk me through some of the problems? Can we start with like some of the...
Well, I would like to start with what... Okay, well,
Go on.
First major problem was that this schoolwork assignment that you gave us, Josh, was so vague. There's no real guidelines to how you're supposed to think about it.
No? It's just your top 20.
So, yeah, which is just... What is that even... Like, what... Now, I know what that means, but also, what does that even mean? What it... You know what I
That's
mean?
the whole problem with the top 20 list. That's the whole problem with the top 20 list, is that it's a very arbitrary
the top 20
thing,
list is the death of complex thought.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It really is.
But it's fun. But it also is agony, because there are certain things, and what I mean about the vagary is like, okay, so like the hardest thing on this list, I think we could probably all agree, is where the fuck were you supposed to put the Sentinels players?
That's what I
It's so
struggle most
difficult
with,
to do because we've only seen them in the past however many days, in the past couple months. We've only seen them at Berlin, and then maybe if you want to include the champion,
Champions finals
champion
is also,
final,
like within
the
the last
4
3
matches there. So that's really all you have, and then it's like, okay, but when you're making this top 20 player list,
I
how much
also
are you
never
looking
set a
into the
date
past?
range. So, I mean, in
there was no
theory,
date range.
There's
It could
no
be
date range.
Right, which is what I was going to say. So, are you looking at it from how much are you looking into the past and weighing that in? Is it just who you think is going to perform well within the context of the tournament, the groups that they're in, how the matches might play out, who's going to play who? Do you go off that context? How do you value players who play duelists versus players that play non-fragging
Now,
roles
that one's
versus
very
in-game leaders?
I went through... I took everyone's list together last night, and I wrote up how many teams had got mentioned throughout it all. So I totaled up everyone.
Were we supposed to add notes?
No. I add notes. I know which team they play for. I watched
Is
the
this on
game.
the final exam? Is this on the final exam, Professor?
No, what I mean is, I went up and I added up how many
copy your
times.
homework.
I went up and I added up how many times, for example, Bren nominated Liquid players for the top 20,
Okay.
and then I wrote it down, and I wrote down everybody's, and I added up all of the times that we'd mentioned certain teams. And then I also thought about it from the role perspective as well. And these lists are just naturally dominated by Jett, secondary duelist kind of flex players, and then mostly Sova players. You can sneak a couple of Sentinels in there or like a couple of Smoke players, but it's horribly weighted towards the people that are more active in the majority of rounds. And nobody... you could have decided that you were doing 4 from each role. We could have done that, but nobody did, because it kind of hamstrings you a bit too much.
Enough defending us.
It's more chaotic to do it like this.
Enough defending us.
We're just astroturfing so people won't get mad at our list.
Well,
that's what I
all
mean.
of this is to say...
that doesn't matter.
All of this is to say, it's funny to mold, but also... all I want is for you to have a good reason behind your pick. Okay? That's all I want. You could pick the most batshit list on earth.
Number 1, MW0.
But as long as fucking hell. But as long as there's a reason behind it, I'm gonna be all right with it. This whole point is to generate discussion. With that being said, Kurt, would you mind unveiling our number 1 picks?
All
right.
Split NA versus EU, right?
For any audio listeners, we've got Avast and Wyatt with
NA versus
Yay
EU.
and Sideshow and Bren with Nats. Genuinely NA v EU.
Yeah.
And they were also the two top players from Berlin. I mean, they were. There was nobody else that was really in the conversation when it came to Berlin. I would say, though, that the kind of consensus at the end of the tournament among us and among the community did end up being Nats. So I want to hear your justification for why you've put Yay as the top player heading into Champions.
I've put Yay there because I think he's been consistently performing at the unbelievable level he's been at for a while. And I have more faith in him to do that again at Berlin 2 Champions than I do Nats to play at the exact same level that he was at Berlin 1. I think Nats is still going to be a top player at the tournament, but out of all the teams there, I really think Envy are my lock for making it deep, and I have so much confidence in Yay to be able to still put up those numbers consistently that make him the number 1 duelist at the moment, because I do think he is the number 1 duelist, and I don't really think that that's a question, and that's why he's at number 1 for me. I think Nats will perform really well at the tournament, but I think that it's easier at the moment for a god-dominant Jett to continue to dominate on Jett consistently on this current version of the game than it will be for a player like Nats to do exactly what he did at Berlin again in regards to the numbers he was putting up on his role and the way he plays the game.
I think that's pretty reasonable. Connor, have you got anything more to add for why Yay was in pole?
That was kind of exactly the reasoning. It's just like the dude. I mean, it's also can't be understated how much since all the tools that are currently given to Jett players in particular to succeed, like because of her kit, it just allows the ceiling to be so high in terms of your impact. And I think Yay is just the definition of someone that can maximize the value out of all those tools, out of a kit that is designed to be really high impact, like all the time. And so when you take all the things that Wyatt mentioned plus that, I feel like it's hard to not put him as number 1 in my list.
Okay.
So why do you guys think that Nats is number 1?
You want to go?
Or will be number 1 at Berlin?
I'm essentially not looking at this in terms of like judging by the group stage or anything, but I mean, if you wanted to, he's got the easiest group stage anyway. Yeah. But it's more so the fact that he was able to do something from his position that nobody else has even been close to being able to do. I mean, I guess the closest would be Dapper, but the actual impact across every single round that Nats was able to get for his team was like nothing we've seen before. And it indicates to me that it's just, it's going to be something that he's able to do from that position. If his team requires him to do the same level again in order to win, okay, maybe he can't have that same level of outrageous performance, but I think the fact that he's doing it from his position makes him such a valuable player. And I thought the impact without having to play Broken Jett Hero was just absurd. So I put him as the number 1. But I mean, I think it's very fair to say that people have gotten a lock on how he did play, or at least to some degree how he did play.
He has
been the most studied player.
He's also probably been
out of Berlin.
Yeah, I mean the most influential player of the second half of this year. Everyone plays Viper and Cypher like him.
He is pushing the envelope? That's the phrase, right? Where in terms of how it's played from his role and his perspective, there's no other player that's getting the value that he is. And in that position. And the crazy thing is as well, I would have utmost confidence if Nats decided to switch to duelist. Obviously, let's pretend it's a fantasy world where roles would work out or whatever. But if Nats was to play a really mechanically demanding role, we've already seen glimpses of his mechanics, his aim, his movement in particular, all of it is up there with the
actually,
very
it's crazy.
best of the best. And he's doing it on the Sentinels role. Normally, these players trend towards roles where they can have this ridiculous impact, but Nats also has got the brains. He's one of the most intelligent players in terms of how he plays around the information he gets from the rest of his team that makes him number one for me.
He's nuts. I mean, and I don't have a problem with Ye either. Kurt, if you want to unveil
I think I know what number 2 is probably going to be, unless someone threw in a curveball.
And they did. They did.
The curveball.
There's the curveball, because we're expecting it to just be Ye Nats up at the top there, and instead Avast has gone for Scream.
I popped off on this one.
Okay, well,
Avast has, in
explain
fact,
yourself,
popped off.
young sir.
Okay. It's essentially take all the arguments we made for Ye, but downscale them heavily, and then think about Liquid's current performance and run, and then it's essentially just the anti. Scream's there because he's on Duelist, on Jett, also on a lot of other things too for this team. But very much, when you think about the typical role that Scream's playing, he's on Jett for this team a lot, and he is the driving force for Liquid. Their performance is really high. The kit for Jett is so high in terms of the playmaking, and if Scream falters, I don't see how Liquid makes a run here, right? And I also think his current performance levels when he's been playing at and LCQ and such have been ridiculously high. His form is crazy good. It's been good for honestly, I really can't think of a time that Scream's ever really had a terrible downturn.
He is consistent.
Yeah, he's been crazy consistent throughout his time in Valorant. And it was kind of just an argument of do I put Nats or Scream here that was me. It was do I put Nats or Scream here? Because I'm just kind of more heavily weighting the fact that I'm thinking Nats might potentially get a little bit more figured out here at Champs because of his role and what he performed at Berlin, and rating that Scream's position will just be higher impact because of him being on a Duelist. That's really it. If I were to pretty much say okay, I don't think Nats is going to get figured out, I probably would have put Nats number 2. As is evidence, you'll see by my next my number 3 pick. I probably would have put Nats number 2 if I didn't think he was. But I'm rating the impact of the Duelist position and how consistent and the current performance of Scream for Liquid as the number 2, because I think if he just keeps that up here, he is going to be potentially the second best Duelist player, if not tied with Ye in terms of his impact at this event. If he keeps up his performance that he's had online.
I really think Scream has been so consistently good that you almost forget how good he is. Because he's always really
His
good.
Numbers are insane. And he's so
you kind of forget how. I'm not mad at that, especially with Liquid's current form. I'm not mad at that comment.
I'm a little bit mad. Not a little. Well, I don't know. His Scream is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. And I love that he has been. I've got him pretty high up. I don't know where I ended up placing him in the end, but it's definitely up there. But his performance as a player, he's obviously picked up Jett as well, which is something that typically shied away from, but he's been playing it more and more for the team because it's just so strong and works in those scenarios. His opping has been okay as well, but he's the kind of player who will take over a round with just popping the fuck off. But I don't know, something about the fact that Liquid doesn't rely on that made me downplay it in my head when I was building the list. You know what I mean? There's some times where Envy will just rely on Ye to go and kill 3.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm with you there. I think Envy relies on Ye more than Liquid relies on Scream.
Yeah.
But
and I don't know why, but that makes me downgrade Scream as an individual in this list as a top player because he can lean on the supportive members.
I think Scream's an amazing player. I don't have Scream up towards the tippity top of my list, and I actually we'll get to that later, but I had some questions about Liquid itself. Anyway, Scream though, insanely consistent, really intelligent player. When I've been watching Scream recently too, he isn't the normal standard Jett. He isn't some cracked high APM, always going to be pressuring you with utility and trying to get in your face. He actually takes pretty percentage plays a lot of the time and then fights on angles he knows that he's going to be able to have an advantage on. And then only when he's kind of got the ball rolling and gotten a couple of kills does he start pressing forwards and forwards and forwards, going for the dry, the wide swinging people and stuff like that. Whereas I feel like Ye has taken Jett to another level. I feel like Ye and Tens are actually on their own level.
And that's...
Scream doesn't quite... I mean, whenever Scream has knives, he's not going crazy. Ye and Tens are. They're absolutely dominating. Yay and Tens are very well rounded in terms of their opping as well. Scream doesn't do that too much, though his opping's pretty decent. He's absolutely a top caliber player, but to me, Scream is just on the outside of the god Jets of this game. And this, to me, is the tournament to prove that he actually belongs with them.
I think his knives have actually gotten way better. In the last tournament, watching in the Red Bull home ground, I thought he was getting a lot more value from those than he was previously when he was playing Jett. I think that he actually improved on Jett quite a bit. And then his rain is just mega consistent because his rifling is just top tier. Yeah, I do think Scream is really top play. And I think also if Liquid have a really good tournament, I think people are going to be looking at Scream as maybe rating him higher as one of the best players in the game. If Liquid
win the tournament, people might be calling Scream the best player in the game.
Yeah. Which very well may be deserved at that point, depending on what happens.
Just depends how it goes.
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I don't really have much to say about Nats. Basically, everything that you guys said is what I agree with. I just put him in 2.
It's the same with me with Ye in second. What you guys were saying. Sure. I will add as well. Like Ye, I think out of all of the Jett players, the reason he's the highest in my list in terms of like players who play Jett is because I don't think there's anyone who is evolving at such a pace. Because it comes to a certain point where there's big overarching things you learn on an agent, but Ye is really just pushing himself to his limits in terms of little micro things that he does. When it comes to things like taking angles, taking duels, he's really thinking about every element of it at a given time in terms of just his movement, the way he swings, the timings he takes. And yeah, his drive as a player, which we'll talk about the interview later as well that he did, but it just highlighted again how much this guy is so focused on perfectionism. And I think it bleeds into his play, and it's so evident because he is just... It's so hard to find an edge over the best in the world, yet Ye somehow finds a way to do it.
Yes, he does. All right, Kurt, reveal the number 3. What have we got? More madness? No, not really, because Avast has just got Nats back in there, and the rest of us have all unanimously gone for 10s here. We've already talked about Nats, so I don't want to talk too much about that, but Wyatt, explain to me why you've got 10s in the 3rd position. The guy, you were talking about Sentinels being difficult to rate. He was the player from Reykjavik, the player. And still, a lot of people are singing the praises of 10s from Berlin because if you only look at his Jett stats,
he got
crazy.
1.24 KPR on Jett, which is outlandish. And that wasn't just from him dumpstering F4Q. That was also when he played Jett against Envy on Haven, and they almost had that comeback. It was because, I can't remember which side was on. They were on attack, I think, on the second half when they came back. And it was just from him getting multiple entries every single round after round after round, dragging Sentinels back into that game.
And he actually had kind of a weak first half and then still finished.
And he finished 30-17, which was better than Ye on that map. He's still a god tier player. Where he falls into 3rd and falls behind Ye for me, and especially specifically in regards to the duelist hierarchy, is that his range on the other agents isn't hitting, and he has gone for that. I mean, more than Ye has, but it hasn't worked, so it's a drawback. Like he played Raze. Obviously, infamously, he played Raze on the last map on Split and did nothing, and they lost to Envy. And his Raze has been a problem in the past. And his Reyna at Champions at Berlin was not hitting like it was previously online or at Reykjavik either, when he was just hitting a headshot to open every round with a rifle. But that being said, his Jett was still outlandish. He dropped like multiple 30 bombs in the tournament. Still a god tier duelist. Still might be the best duelist in the world. It's just that he's below Ye for me on this one because I think he has to be, given that
just based on
Envy went deeper in the tournament and beat Sentinels, and Ye performed at a crazy level the whole time. So yeah, he falls below Ye for the beginning of this Champions tournament, but we could very well be leaving Champions back with Tenzin number 1.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to even when we're comparing Jett player to Jett player primarily, because that's what Ye and Tens do. Part of the downside for Tens is that he's tried to be more flexible for his team because they need him to be and couldn't quite manage to live up to it. Whereas for Envy, they don't even need that from Ye. They actually have enough of a good system that Ye can play Jett pretty much the entire time, and they're perfectly fine with that. And that is more credit to Envy for giving Ye that freedom, but Sentinels needs Tens to do some slightly different stuff just because of the way that Shaz and Six roles work. And he can't quite. It's almost unfair to judge them by different things, but that's part of the reality of having different teammates. You can only really be judged by the system that you're in. So that's why ranking systems like this are not perfect and they're very subjective.
Yeah. There's a bit of a narrative as well going around at the moment. We've mentioned it in the kitchen in our discussions about the tens is wash narrative that
that's not a real thing.
People
are
trying
people are
to
pushing?
Genuinely, there are some people out there with comments trying to make a claim that he's washed or beginning to be washed because of the one bad map that he had where he played Ray's split against NV.
That's ludicrous.
Which is it's absurd. And I hate to even bring it up.
It's the human's desire to have individuality.
Yes, to have an opinion that's different to everybody else.
I have a different thought.
I think it's also they want to be the first to tear down the gods.
The reason,
they want to make the immortal mortal and drag them from their thrones.
The reason I even brought it up is because I think that one map that people highlight and are using as the crux of the argument. I think I'm expecting tens to come into champs with a lot more confidence on a multitude of roles. Because he's definitely a confidence-driven player. When he's playing a Jett, he's confident and he pops the fuck off. But it's. I remember early on when we were, it was little extracts from either Shaz's stream or when we had him on maybe an interview. But he was talking about tens coming into the team, and saying how they put tens in positions where he was comfortable, where he could play what he wanted to. Yeah. And as the team has developed and they need him to play different things, obviously that confidence can falter a little bit. But I do have faith that he's the type of player who will just be able to rebound off the back of that. And there's nothing better than a loss to improve off of.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Kurt, reveal number 4. Who have we got here?
About to pop off on this one.
Ooh, we've all got different picks for this one. This is really interesting. So number 4, I was expecting Connor to have 10 starting to slot in there. And we've got an out there pick, actually, in my opinion, because we've got second pick from Gambit back to back, Chronicle. Talk to me about Chronicle, Avast. I know that you really liked how he played at Berlin.
I simped hard over Chronicle during Berlin. I thought he was hard. I kept on talking about Chronicle, and you guys would all turn to me and be like, "What are you talking about? Talking about Chronicle?" And if you go back and look at his performance, the man fucking overall top fragged across multiple series. He had incredible clutch plays on both Viper and Sova multiple times. He got such crucial mid-round kills, so often. And he would do it a lot of times from playing from the back of utility, playing from the info that he gathered from his teammates. I think he's not like your traditional, I wouldn't put him in the same category as a Zeta type of Sova player or even a Crashies where he's more utility driven. I would say he's actually a little bit more frag heavy in terms of how he plays at times, but he plays off of his own utility so well. And he's extremely clutch and he frags. He just fucking frags. I think the guy is in the right position all the time. And even though he's not incredibly utility driven with his play at times, he's able to play all of his roles that he does play for them very well and makes the right plays and mid-round adjustments and just hits the shots. I think consistently he saved Gambit from tons of terrible situations.
He is crazy clutch.
So often. But he was insanely clutch.
Honestly,
he played his best series in the final.
I'm not... Yeah. Listen, I'm not mad at that. I put Crashies there because still, for me, even though they lost to Gambit in the final, I still think that as an individual, Crashies is the best Sova in the game right now. And that's why he's my number 4 in a very general sense. But if you wanted to, that means that Connor thinks that Chronicle is the best Sova in the game if he's at 4th.
No. The thing is, I'm not necessarily thinking I'm not saying that he's necessarily the best Sova in the game. I think his Sova is really good.
Sure.
I think in terms of his overall player skill across all the roles he plays, he is the 4th ranked best player. I don't necessarily think he's the best Sova though. I would probably put
even if you did though. I was going to say even if you I was going to say if you think I think that Chronicle might be the best Sova in the game. I think probably you're debating between the two of them right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So having one or the other there, I think is pretty reasonable, honestly. But yeah, for me, I've Crashies there because I think he's the best Sova in the game. I think from the beginning of Berlin, he was on point. It was when they were down and Envy were kind of looking shaky at the beginning against Vivokeyed, and it looked like they had some nerves. He didn't. He got the Sheriff Ace that brought them back in the game in that ridiculous clutch. He was nasty throughout the rest of the tournament, also consistently good in clutches later on. Every time they play Ascent, he's dropping 20 plus against any team. He was just sick on that map. I think Crashies is the best Sova in the game. I put him at 4th for that reason.
See, one of the other reasons that I hate even debating lists like this is that Chronicles and Crashies are both phenomenal players.
Yeah.
It's just I don't think they're at fourth, and I think it almost does an injustice to some of the other players that I would want to put there. So I do feel really strongly about CNED being above both those players, but the top 20 is just full of such bonkers good talent that I almost can't be mad at any order you put these things in, and yet I am. So that's part of the molding that I'm going through here too. I think CNED had the potential coming into Berlin to prove himself as possibly the best Jett in the game, right? It looked like the potential. He didn't perform better at LAN than he did online, but he still performed the same level that he did online to me. Yeah. And I think he was the scariest player on Ascend, the most consistent player on Ascend, and dominated the game in on a multitude of their matches. And I almost think he did as much as he could have done, considering how much worse people like Starzo and Bone Cold looked compared to their online performance and how much that affected the team.
Against 100 Thieves, he pretty much dropped like 25, 25, 25 on all 3 maps.
Yeah, and I mean, you could hear from 100 Thieves afterwards as well how much he kind of controlled their thought process around the game too. So to me, CNED had the opportunity to be rising from like, I can't remember where I put him for Berlin, but it must have been somewhere around like this position, around kind of the 4th. He had the opportunity to rise all the way up to number 1, and I think he stayed pretty static for me. But I still think CNED is a scarier prospect to go up against than a lot of the other people that you might put at this level. So that's why I ended up having him here.
And then there's Leaf.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the biggest Leaf simp in the world, mate, and there's still a long way to go before you get to Leaf on even my list.
You gotta sell me on this, Bren.
I think that NALCQ was potentially the highest skill level that you're going to find in the tournament before champs for all these teams to be competing. And Leaf put up unbelievable numbers in NALCQ against some of the best talent in NA. Some of the best in terms of their fragging potential and abilities. Leaf, I'm anticipating Cloud9 to... Honestly, I was taking a look at some of the kind of like early betting odds that, you know, people like, I think Fion was posting and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen those
Cloud9, a lot of people anticipating them not to go well. I'm expecting this team to... It's a bit risky, right? Because we don't know how they're going to be performing, but overall as a team, I'm expecting them to do a lot better than other people are expecting because they've got so much in their arsenal in terms of the rest of the roster. But Leaf being kind of this guy at the centerpiece of it who can just... He will take over a round without fail. Every now and then, he will be good for winning a Thrifty or something, just absolutely popping off. There were many moments during NALCQ where he was doing just that.
Yeah, he does.
I'm expecting him to put up some unreal numbers over the course of champs. This is my hot take. If fucking Avast doesn't even have 10s in his top 4, I'm allowed to have Leaf here.
Well,
in
you're gonna see him. You're gonna see him.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is my take. I know you're a big Leaf simp, but just the trajectory I think of Cloud9 moving forwards as a team into champs itself. The fact that Leaf did it against such good talent, he put up the best numbers in NALCQ out of a lot of the other players.
Yeah.
And they're all really good.
Yeah.
I'm expecting really big things.
He's going to have
the thing is, though, too,
baptism by fire. That group is...
It is.
But I feel like he's already had it.
Well, he hasn't played on LAN, which is why he's further down my list.
He hasn't played at LAN. And also, Cloud9 are like a scrim team that I know at Berlin, like the scrim teams actually did go super far. But I feel like those are the kind of players that are going to want to go for those like confidence peaks constantly and trying to look and force fights. And the players who are up against here, I actually think I do agree with your point that NALCQ was the highest level competition right before champs. I think it was higher level perhaps just by a shred compared to EU LCQ. Yeah, EMEA. But I also think that the Jett level was not.
You don't think so?
No, because once you take Yay and Tens out of NA, you have Asuna.
He wasn't even playing. They had Nitro.
Oh, sure, they had Nitro, yeah.
Nitro
so you have Nitro,
okay,
sorry, because I was thinking about Asuna, but of course that was Nitro.
Asuna did play it at times, right? In NALCQ?
No, I think Nitro was 100% Jett.
Was he only on Jett?
Asuna played it on Haven, I think. That was the only map, because
Nitro was playing Cypher, yeah. So anyway, but let's even include Asuna in the argument, though. But like Asuna, Nitro, you got Leaf, and then...
I was going to make an argument here. Shanks, Baby Bay.
Shanks and Baby Bay, though, are not the same caliber as... Yay, Tens, CNED, the other like god tier Jett Scream that he's going to be going up against. So I think it's going to be a different level playing at Champions when you're trying to play against a star duelist of that caliber.
I mean, I think
there's a tier
capable.
gap to me.
I think he's more than capable
I think he could.
Of getting to that point over the course of the tournament. This is my hot take. This is the one that I knew I was going to get roasted for. I fucking knew when I was building this list, when I put Leaf at 4, I was doing it on stream, people in my chat going, what are you doing? Losing their fucking minds over this shit. This is my hot take. I'm anticipating Cloud9 to really exceed everybody's expectations.
I mean, even within his group, that's going to be pretty quite the test. Not saying he can't do it. I have a lot of Leaf is cracked out.
Against?
John Olsen, Durka, and Buzz.
Yeah,
I mean that's a respectable challenge.
It is,
depending on the level we see from Durka. All right, how good is John Olsen actually going to be on LAN?
I think you should anticipate Leaf being first or second best in that group, but it's certainly a test when it's LAN as well.
Yeah.
But all right, that's the hot take. Listen, I had Leaf really high up the list when it came to when we originally did these top 20 for North America.
Oh yeah, and people were molding you.
And people were molding, and I was holding by it, and I still feel like he's an amazing talent. It's just Champions has so many amazing talents. What, sorry, Connor?
Top 5 SPF player.
Top 5 SPF player of all time. All right, let's unveil number 5, Kurt. What have we got here?
There you go.
Okay, so Avast, there's Tens, Wyatt with CNED. This is where I've got Crashies as well, so it's essentially just reverse here and CNED as well. I actually feel like most of the arguments for this have already been stated. Does anyone have a particular point they want to go on?
Yeah, I mean, I still think CNED performed well at Berlin, despite Ascend's failures, and against 100 Thieves, he still put up big numbers. He was doing really well against them, and he did dictate that game. Like you heard in the 100 Thieves comms after, Nitro just laughing and saying, like, let's just go where their Jet isn't. Yeah. And that's how they won. Yeah. And then even after that, in Red Bull, he was still putting up some crazy numbers. Like he dropped a 39 against Gambit on Split. Yeah. And so he's still playing well. He's still in good form. I expect CNED at this tournament to be one of the top performing Jets. Still one of the top duelists in the game.
Yeah, unless Twitch talks to Riot Turkey. But moving on to number 6, let's have a look. Oh, 6 and 7. Undo. Control Z,
Jesus.
Whoa!
Oh, it's too late. All right. Well,
late.
we got a 2-for-1 deal there. There's so much to process here. So Avast and Wyatt have both got Yampy here. I've got Heat, and Bren's got Scream. For starters, let's just address number 6.
Okay.
I want to start almost...
You got Yampy so high up.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about Yampy then, because you've both got him at 6. Yeah. I've got him at 7. I've got him above Scream. Actually, so do you.
So do I. Yeah.
And Avast's got him a little underneath.
I've got Scream above him.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I could start with the Yampy argument, and then you could give your.
I'll follow on as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so can Connor, because he had him at 6 with me as well. I have Yampy at 6, and I also have him above Scream, and the reason why is because coming into this. And this is kind of I think a risky placement, because this is going off of essentially just LCQ and Red Bull. I'm not really factoring in the history of Yampy much, because he has improved so much over the past couple months that I don't think that previous play is particularly relevant. Also, I have a lot of stock in him in 2 main, maybe 3 main factors. 1, he is the IGL of the team. 2, he's playing multiple crucial roles for Liquid that they needed. A good Sova. He's playing the Astra for them on Split, and somehow always drops at least 20.
He has I think he has something like 0.95 KPR on Astra.
And then when he's on the Jet and they have the duelist duo of him and Scream, he's been consistently popping off on Jet as well. His fragging, his numbers are great on all of the agents he's playing. Whether it's he's playing Astra, Sova, and Jet, putting up numbers and IGLing for the team.
He plays Killjoy as well for them too.
Sure.
He has some Sentinel jobs too.
And all this is within their last 2 tournament run. I think his improvement, Nivera being added to the team aside, which I do think is probably the main thing that pushed them over the edge, because now the roster is just crazy. But Yampy's improvement has been monstrous for the team. And also, their game plans, their attack habs are really good. And he needs credit for that, as doing that as the IGL2 and putting up numbers and playing all these agents. It's crazy. So I have him up pretty high. In a sense, it's almost, he's kind of up there like in a way that Shazam was for me before, but Shazam has just dropped because of Berlin. But it's sort of a similar thing. Putting up numbers, playing multiple agents, IGLing for the team. Yeah. It's kind of a similar thing. Yeah. But Yampy comes in at 6 for me because We've seen it in the last 2 tournaments online. Okay, now let's see if he can do it at LAN. And I do have faith that Liquid are going to be good at LAN, and Yampy is going to continue playing well. That's why he's at 6 for me. Sorry, I was fucking ramble, but
no, I'm right with you there the entire way. That's why I've got him so high up, and I was actually really heavily debating him or Scream, because I think Scream is a world-class player as well. But to me, what tipped it over the edge was the range of flexibility that Yampy's had, and the IGLing particularly. I agree with you though that it's risky, and one of the reasons it's risky is because Yampy at Reykjavik was Papige level. I mean, we were talking about them coming into Reykjavik as living or dying by Yampy's Jett, and I was so unbelievably unimpressed with Yampy's decision-making on LAN at Reykjavik. And I think that was one of the big pitfalls that they fell into during that event. And when there's so much pressure on him, plus the IGLing when it comes to LAN, it's kind of banking on the fact that has gotten out of his system already. I mean, but I'm still taking into account though not LCQ, the qualifier for Berlin too, because I still think even then Yampy was looking good. So it's not completely just recent. It does incorporate that where they were, incredibly close to even being able to make it to Masters. But I think I think this is definitely my punt, but I believe in him, and he's just a totally different player to when he was playing at Reykjavik.
I look back at some of those stats from Berlin and it was just refreshing my memory. I'm like, holy shit, against V1 on Split.
Oh, you mean on Reykjavik, yeah.
At Reykjavik, sorry. He went like 14-31 on Split against V1, and then I was just flashing back to him dashing in and dying over. Yeah. And it just, within really not that long, 6 months or so, he has really drastically improved. He's so crucial for Liquid's success.
If we had hidden the names, I would have thought Wyatt and Sideshow were fluid. I would have thought Wyatt would have put Heat up there, and Sideshow would have put Yampy. If we had hit the names there.
Yeah,
I think
close.
You guys must be weighing like the IGLing aspect very highly, right? To be having him this high up.
Pretty highly. If he wasn't the IGL for the team, he would certainly be behind Scream to me. Actually, maybe not certainly, but he would probably be behind Scream and a couple more down the list.
Where I see the success of Liquid a lot of times comes from their ideas and structure ahead of time, like the comps that they play and coming into, which comes from the prep beforehand.
I think Sliggy is a huge component.
I'm not taking away from Yampy and his IGLing, because I think that they do have good like macro understandings of like the way rounds play out, and a lot of that is Yampy who's going to be calling a lot of that stuff. Yampy also, he's just a really intelligent individual player. I think his ability to find times is really good. But, like, I don't know, if we pull out a list, like, I've got to add Scream in, because I just think for reasons that, I can't remember who it was saying earlier, but the consistency factor of Scream in terms of how consistent he is, but he's still just outside of the gap. I won't go on too much. Yampy, I do not have him as high up as you guys.
I wouldn't have, had I not seriously considered it and tried to justify him not being that high up. And I just thought it was incredibly difficult. Plus, he's still one of the best oppers that we have in the game. Yeah. He just doesn't play Jett, but he's still one of the best, most consistent oppers. I want to talk for a second, though, about Heat, because I have him at this position, and this was one that I found difficult to place. Because his actual Berlin performance, the only LAN that he's been able to play at, he looked nuts. He looked like one of the best Jets of the event up until the game against Crew, where he got injured and didn't really put up he put up like a very middling kind of meh performance.
Not even middling. It was just, I think he bottom fragged on his team for this game. His genuinely, I think, his worst performance that I've found looking back at stats.
And so I didn't know where to put him, because I felt like you could put him, maybe even a little bit higher, because he did outperform kind of CNED statistically at the event and stuff. But considering that was only one event, and there was that kind of hiccup towards the end too, and I'm not sure how replicable it's going to be, I put him at like a cautious 6. But I feel like he could really swing either way. It seems more likely he would swing down, because I can't imagine he would be able to replicate getting like top 3 statistically at the event. But he was nuts. So I didn't want to put him too much lower, because it felt underrating him.
Yeah, I did not have him. I have him reasonably high up, but the thing that stops me from really pushing him and pulling him up comes from the kind of caliber of opponents he was playing against at Berlin. He played against Envy, right? Yeah. And that was a good performance. You're playing against literally one of the best teams in the LAN. Okay, fair enough. But aside from that, it was like Zeta Division and I can't remember.
Crew, which they lost to.
And I feel like I didn't really see enough of Heat performing against some of the top talent to be able to justify him being higher up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
despite playing against Envy and playing.
I have him at 7, and I think he might even swing higher at this tournament. I think just like by the eye test, I think he's going to swing higher. I do buy into him being injured and not playing at a even reasonably average level from him against Crew. Because again, I mean, against Envy, his numbers were crazy on both maps. He was clearly able to compete with the god duelists on that level. And he just destroyed Zeta Division. Like, he was 24-8 on both maps against them. He just crushed them.
Yeah.
He is one of the god tier duelists in the game. I think that Crew game was going to be a one of, and I think he's probably going to swing up at this event, honestly. And I wanted to put him higher, but I don't think you can justify it with the amount of games seen at LAN from him yet. But I think he might go up. Or stay about the same, and I guess kind of earn his spot further, because Vivokeed might not make it as deep as the teams that are of the players represented here, right?
Yeah,
so
if
he
your
might
team doesn't
just
make it deep, you
stay.
don't have as many opportunities to play against top teams. You can't prove yourself as much.
But
kind of stuff.
I think he will. I think he will at the least continue to earn this like 6th, 7th spot that you have him in, or I have him in. I think reasonably.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's unveil the 8th pick here.
I haven't spoken about Chronicle.
Oh, do you want to? A quick word? Word about our Lord and Savior?
We do have to get through this quickly.
Please speak then.
I'm going to take my time.
Let's hear it.
Chronicle, I think, is... this is where I start getting to the supportive players a little bit more, as opposed to just the fraggers. I mean, Nats is an outlier, but I think that he is the best who's doing it right now.
Yeah.
And his role is so integral within Gambit in terms of the information gathering for that entire team to succeed even. And that's why I've got him up there. But yeah, I'll move on quickly so we can talk about these.
All right, so next at the 8th position, Avast gone for Shados. I'm a fan of that. I've got him a little further down.
Mine
the
is
list.
incorrect.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I just copied and pasted your...
That's very strange, because even in my message, that's incorrect. My 8th should be Scream.
Don't know how I managed that then. Don't know how I did that.
Everything else is correct up until this point. Can you just delete Shazam and type Scream, Kurt?
That's bizarre. I don't know how I managed that.
Yeah, I don't know how, because it is that in the mess.
Well, then also...
maybe it just auto-updated
Shazam will also probably be missing at some point in your list, so you'll have to correct it whenever it comes back up.
That's fine, but my number 8 is Scream, same as you.
Yeah, okay. So at this point, I had Scream. You've got Scream as well. Bren, I want to talk about Shaz.
Sure.
Because Shaz would have previously been up at like the number 1, number 2 position heading into Berlin for most people. And I feel like part of that was because he had never actually been knocked off his pedestal as the best IGL in the game. And then Berlin was a blow to his kind of, what's the word? Like,
made him mortal.
Yeah, it really did make him mortal.
Made him mortal.
He had the sheen of just being perfect up until then. He lost games, but he always recovered.
I've been umming and ahhing over Shazam at 8th for so long. Especially when I was building the list itself as well, because off the back of the performance, you can make very good arguments that there should be other players above him. And even myself have said that Sentinels, what's the most common result for a team that ends up stagnating to that point is that they will never quite reach the same peaks that they did before. And that's
historically
that is
accurate.
most likely the outcome of what's going to happen for Sentinels at the upcoming event. But I still have faith in Shazam, and I feel like he's not the kind of player who's going to come off the back of that loss with no answers. You feel me? In terms of developing not only himself as a team, or as a player, I should say, but also how they're going to be working as a team into the future event. He has been so consistent all year long at a very high level against some very high competition. And I hope that what we last saw of him was just a blip and was a bit of an outlier. And this is almost me having a bit of an expectation that Sentinels will be punching once again at that top slot.
Sure.
I also think it's quite likely that Shaz doesn't play as much Jett coming up.
Yeah.
Because I think the natural flow of heading into Champions would be for Tens to play more of just the Jett role because he's so good at it. And then for Sick to play more of the Hyperflex stuff rather than what he was doing. And Shaz to just slot in on the fairly standard Sova role for the team.
And I was going to make the point whenever Shazam comes up for me, but it's relevant here too. If that is the case, which it might be, at Berlin, he had one really good Jett game against G2, but other than that, all of his better games were on Sova.
Yeah.
So at least by the recent game metric, if he ends up just playing Sova, he could still earn his spot by virtue of just being a really good Sova and having better performances on that he would have maybe not have had if he were playing Jett.
I feel really bad about not having Shaz that high up on my list, actually, because I would have had him, right up at the top coming into Berlin.
Yeah.
And he's taken an enormous hit, bigger than anybody else, just based off the fact that Sheen has disappeared from the Sentinels' dominance. And it's almost unfortunate that there wasn't another tournament for him to prove that was a blip up until Champions. It's just a fact of the VCT system that there's no tournament that they can play in, really, between Berlin and Champs itself. So
I want to hear about...
But also, though, the Shazam point that I wanted to get to as well is that part of the failures at Berlin were stuff that you would expect Shaz to have caught and fixed, like them being behind the meta, and the way in which they play getting figured out and not being able to adjust to their opponents, and the failures in actually how they ended up losing to Envy. So that's one of the reasons he takes a dip.
I think they have a lot of baked in MMR here, where like for a player like Shaz, and with my tens pick as well, because you'll see Shazam for my list very soon as well, in that if they do well here at Champs, they could rebound.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they could shoot right back up.
Because it's literally just we don't have enough data for them currently, and it was a pretty big blip what happened at Berlin in comparison to their previous performances.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, who did you want to ask about? Shados?
Oh yeah. What is? I mean, this is a pick. I would expect Josh to have Shados at 8. How do you? What made you put him at 8?
I remember when he put him up so high for Berlin, I was like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Like when Josh put him really high up on his list. And then it's interesting. I mean, it's not that interesting because there's just so many players to me. The most interesting part to me is that I guess that he now rates Heat so much higher than Shados after like one performance, including one that had like a terrible, shockingly bad performance from Heat. And he's dropped Shados like a hot fucking potato. He said,
I haven't. Shados is still on my list, pretty high up.
This guy's out of here. So I actually really like him in the system in Gambit, because I didn't think he was that good when he was coming into Berlin. Like I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was like amazing. And then after watching performance and how he's so easily able to flex between that secondary duelist player on the Reyna and have incredible frags on Reyna, but then go to the Sky and have really, really high impact flashes, because that's one of those roles where if you have a really good Sky player, the amount of impact you can have on the game is immense, honestly, in terms of how well you're able to set up your team and gather info. And also just by how strong Sky's kit currently is, in particular by being able to get like Seekers so fast, which is very important when you have someone like Shados that's able to frag on Sky and able to get consistent value from that ult. I think when you look at how much value he gives the rest of the team, and also gives space to players like Defo, who I think is like a very good Jett player and probably outperformed a lot of our expectations, I think, at Berlin. But I think a lot of that is because the supportive structure behind him, with all the info that was gathered, and especially with setup like either working with Shados on Reyna or with Sky, I think it's key that him as a supportive player is towards the top of like the Sky players are going to be here. And granted, he's been playing a lot of Breach recently and some of the more recent stuff. Yeah. But I don't love the Breach as much as I liked his Reyna and his Sky. But there's still a chance that can get figured out a bit. But I think his overall supportive play and how he sets up some of their pieces that might not be as strong as their own, like Defo, is gigantic. I think he's a really, really strong supportive player.
Shados is nuts. I actually haven't dropped Shados at all. Other people have just overtaken him a bit. Like, I think I underrated Heat coming into Berlin. And he overperformed my expectations, so I put him up. Let's take a look at the number 9 spot, though. I've bamboozled Curtis. Kurt's doing sneaky reveals. Okay. The number 9 position. Let's have a look. So, okay then. So we've got Crashies finally for Avast. We've got Zeke for myself. And Bren now has Heat, with Wyatt putting Stacks up here as well. I think that, the 2 new ones are Stacks and Zeke, so let's talk about those ones. Starting with Zeke, for me, I think that this guy was one of the people that stepped up on Ascend during Berlin. I think his performance online, very, very good. And I think what I saw from him was even better when we saw him at LAN. He's super flexible for the team, and I think he's an absolute necessity to perform at that kind of level if Ascend want their success too. I think Ascend is kind of built with a lot of really naturally talented players. And so something that's difficult when you create lists like this is trying to rank, let's say, for example, Shados against Zeke. Well, how much of that is like the Gambit system and how much of that is the player? And should you give them credit for the system that they have perhaps created or implemented?
Yeah.
And so I tended more towards the just player rather than the team and the decisions that they make rather than kind of set plays or the system in which they play and that kind of stuff. So I tried to take things in a little bit of a vacuum. And I feel like Zeke is an excellent, excellent flex player in a vacuum. He's just phenomenally flexible and really good fragging and played really well at LAN when the rest of his team wasn't.
Yeah, I was trying to find a place to move Zeke up further on the list because I think even post-LAN, he's continued his form, and Red Bull he was playing really well. And his composure at LAN was great, and I expect him to keep up that level of form. I have Stax at 9, though, because I think Stax is the best player coming out of Korea at the moment. I think that that his ability to both effectively set up his teammates, specifically at a lot of times putting Buzz in position to pop off, but at the same time have the ability to frag out and be the star player of the team and come up in so many crucial clutch situations for Vision Strikers. I mean, he straight up won the map 2 against Gambit with getting those clutches. I mean, his play on Split when he was on the Sky was just out of control. He won that game for Vision Strikers. I think he's the most crucial element of that team. I think he's an unbelievable player that manages to both be supportive and fragging and lead the team. It is a lot that he offers, and that continues to get him a high spot on my list. Also, Vision Strikers had a reasonably good showing. You know, beating Ascend with relative ease and then taking a map off Gambit. But the map off Gambit was essentially on his shoulders. Yeah. So that's why he gets a lot of credit for me.
Do you want to hear a crazy stat?
Sure.
Vision Strikers in the last 6 months have played 5, arguably 6 matches against top opponents.
Yeah,
so
I believe
about
that.
1 match a month. I mean,
what is that like?
That is the
damn one, and the teams.
I mean that's including like Gongo Prince and TNL and F4Q, and then the 3 that they played at Champions. There is the least data possible on Vision Strikers trying to assess them coming into LAN, and it's not really helped by Berlin. So they kind of just crept down my list. Just
I think
by
that
not
Berlin
enough data.
I think Stax still proved that he's the fucking guy for that team and for the region.
Actually, though.
Which is why I have him high on my list.
Okay. All right, well, let's take a look at the 10th position then.
Yep,
Here we go.
I agree.
Okay, so
do
I. I mean, this is where I put Stax as well, around the 10th position. And this is where Connor's got Shazam as well. Interestingly, neither me or Wyatt have even got to Shaz yet. I don't know about... Did you feel bad about putting him this far down the list? Because I did.
I did, but I think it had to be done.
Ridiculous. I feel like you guys... I mean, I get it. Like, I do get it, but goddamn, it feels so dirty to him.
It really is. After it's so dirty.
It is dirty, but...
actual wonderkin for sure for fucking Sentinels.
I know, but
we just... absent names.
We just don't have any options.
I mean,
Chronicle?
Sick.
I mean, we'll talk.
I'm talking like names we've already put down, but somebody else or like multiple people haven't.
Yeah, we haven't. Me and Wyatt haven't got to.
I mean, you haven't put Yampy down yet.
I haven't got to Chronicle. You haven't got to Yampy. I mean, let's just unveil.
We can.
Let's just unveil number 11 and see what's here. Oh, so this is where Avast got to Zeke. Wyatt's even got to Shados before I have as well.
That's crazy.
God, you dropped
you
You actually just said, fuck you, Shados.
I didn't.
I know, after he was amazing good throughout.
And he was
Shados
good.
Shados was great. Trade-offs. He was
always there for the trade.
Oh, he was. Traded.
But there's just other people that have crept in, like Leaf. I mean, Leaf is
top 4 player.
He's a boss. I had him. Where did I even have him when I ranked North America? I don't even know. I got memed for it, like top 8 or something.
I think you had him like in
top
6
5
or 7.
No,
it was something like 6 or 7, just ahead of 6.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I mean, he's 11th at Champions. I
just
really
can't rate him
think
that
the guy's
high.
a boss.
He is, but they're just
he dominates.
He has not played against Envy, Sen, Gambit, Ascend, those level teams at LAN yet. And those are the players currently on the list. That's just why I don't have him yet.
He's played against good teams, though.
Yeah.
He's played against good teams, and recently, I put a lot of stock into just the recency in a team that is coming alive and is on fire. In the lead up into it, because there's something to be said about the official circumstances, which you play a match and you're going straight into champs. You're in a different mindset, I think, to some of the teams who come off the back of Berlin, stagnating maybe, trying to rectify their mistakes, and it's still up in the air a little bit. Whereas Cloud9 are going to be thinking, holy fuck, we actually popped off, including Leaf, which I think you still underrated him.
You think I underrated him by calling him the 11th best player at Champions?
Yep.
I mean, okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Fuck.
I'm putting him here because of all the reasons that Wyatt said. He's not up at the top of the list where he could be because he hasn't played a major event, because there's that uncertainty factor. All right, let's take a look at number 12, though. Let's unveil the next one. This is where I had buzzed. Wyatt's got Marved here. Avast has Starzo, still on the Starzo box.
Now we're getting to the crazy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say I have Marved here because I think Marved is the best Astra heading into this tournament. Astra is the best controller. Thus, I think Marved is just the best controller coming into this tournament.
Yeah.
And I think he was mega consistent for Envy the whole time. No nerves, was playing well pretty much throughout the entire tournament. I think his Astra utility is the best out of any Astra. I just think he's the best controller coming in. I have him at 12. He's the best controller.
He is sick. He is actually sick.
Why.
I do
Simple
like how
reason.
high up you've got Marved here. I mean, I can't remember where I placed him, but in the end, yeah.
Yeah, he's certainly on my list at some point. I put Buzz here too. He actually kind of... I was expecting him to maybe get shut down a little bit when he played against top competition at Berlin, and he ran over Ascend. He ran over them. And yeah, he has all of the support from the rest of his team. They tend to play pretty front-loaded comps where he gets a lot of flashes and always going in with the recon and that kind of thing. But he did perform. And I don't know where to put the Vision Strikers players because there isn't enough data. So Buzz might end up off the list after Champions or way up towards the top. I don't know.
I feel
but
like
he's of the same caliber as the top Jets.
I feel like he's of the same caliber.
Look, it's an NFT.
Yeah, Avast.
What is going on?
Avast.
Man? What is happening?
Water
What is going on here?
water leaking on your prison webcam or
No,
you
just
gotta
wipe it off.
Wipe it off.
oh my god.
That's really good. Maybe I should just rejoin the call.
No, leave it like this. I like this.
It's like when Sage
I know
got
what's
captured
gonna
by
happen,
crystals.
too. Kurt is gonna fucking put this as the thumbnail too. It's gonna happen. Kurt's gonna put this as the thumbnail. I'm gonna be looking like an NFT. Like it's gonna be so stupid. Should I just rejoin? I don't know.
You look like
should probably.
you look like the what is the Halo thing called? The flood. You look like the flood's erupting from your eyeballs. He's gone.
He's
All right.
gone.
Oh, sad.
I mean, by the way, he's tripping with Starzo at 12.
I mean, Starzo had a bad tournament at Berlin. A bad tournament.
He's tripping. I mean, he's a great player, but I think
Starzo at Berlin was about in that position for me, and then he fell off the list.
I want to talk about your buzz pick though, because we went over it because Avast just fucking derailed us with his "I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark" moment. He's like fading into it. I feel like Buzz is in the same caliber as a lot of Jet players that they play within their team environment and they get supported very well. Players like Defo, for example, is what I think of when I think of like that. And you've got him up really high. I think Buzz gets more support than players like Defo.
I agree.
Puts up. Does he put up better numbers? I don't think so.
Yeah, he puts up way better numbers than Defo. His numbers are incredible, actually. He puts up the same level numbers as Leaf. It's just Leaf runs around and does shit a lot of the time on his own, and Buzz gets heavy support from his team. But at the end of the day, Buzz is also the spear tip of his team. And if Buzz doesn't find that success, I think it's pretty similar to a player like Leaf. He doesn't get... The team doesn't win as well.
Yeah.
I'm putting him here just because there's uncertainty around it. They've only played 6 matches in 6 months against good teams. Who the fuck knows where to rate Vision Strikers, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and putting them pretty high up.
I am not going to do that, or I didn't do that, and the reasoning is because I think a lot of Vision Strikers' success comes from, again, similar to Liquid in terms of they have good ideas coming into maps, compositions, the macro identity of like a team and how they play, which obviously their players play a significant part of it, but yeah.
Okay. Connor, defend Starzo. He did not have a good LAN at Berlin.
He did not have a good event, I will admit. And when I further reviewed, because I did this list kind of late at night to get this to you, when I further reviewed this list, I was like, was this the best pick for Starkso? But I'm gonna have to defend it. I'm gonna have to defend it because I actually do still rate him. But it could just be my old support origins, But I do think his Sky gameplay is still really, really good. I think when he plays Sky, he can play it. He plays Sky at an extremely top level. And he's pretty flexible for his team. He fits a lot of holes for Sind. And I think overall, his flexibility plus his overall, when he's at his peaks, when he's performing at his best, his Sky could potentially be like the best at this event when he's playing like at his peaks. But when I went back and reviewed this a little bit further, I feel like I probably have him a little bit high. I think I was just like thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, this guy pops off. And I was looking at a couple of matches about Sky. I was like, oh, this guy fucks. And then I'm looking at his other match where he's playing like Astra and shit. And he's like all right at it when they're playing Astra on maps like Ascent and stuff. So realistically, I probably should have reformulated Starkso a little bit, but I would still potentially have him in my top 20 just because I think his overall play as a supported player is really, really strong, and it gives Ascend a bit of a backbone where they're not just relying on CNED CNED and Zeke to pull all their weight. Like Starkso is there, taking a lot of that weight off of them and being really, really supportive on Sky to where I love the info he gathers and the plays he's able to set up. And he does frag. He does frag when he
frags online. I think it's one of those things where it's like rating, I don't know, Sick or Dapper or something. He had a really bad recent
land. He had a bad event,
but for Starzo, he doesn't have other lands where he's dominated, whereas Dapper, for example, does.
It's tough.
After a second look.
I mean, I almost had Starzo on mine. He fell out of it. He was in like the honorable mentions, but it's just the Berlin. Even after that, he did well in Red Bull. But.
Yeah, he did. Number 13, I believe we're up to. Here we are. So Avast has got Stacks. This is where Wyatt's got Shaz.
Yeah.
I put Shados here as well. He ended up just getting overtaken, honestly, by a bunch of Jett players, to be honest. And Bren has Zeke. These are all common names.
Fun fact, when I formulated my list, just forgot to include Zeke. with the first Passover, the first draft, until my chat was like, why have you not got Zeke in? And I remembered he existed. My brain connected the synapses that were lost, that were going to be lost, and I almost just had him not making a list, but he, in recent times, has been... I'm just rehashing the same points that we've already spoken about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We've talked about all these players.
14. Let's take a look at these. So, this is where Connor has Sick. I am the only person who have Defo in the top 20 as well, actually. And I want to defend Defo before we go on to Sick and Zepper as well.
Defend him.
Because his performance is usually like I actually think of him as a supportive Jett player a lot of the time. Because part of his job is to pick up the AWP as much as possible and hold a lane for the Gambit defense. And try and hold areas as they coordinatedly take parts of the map. He's not gonna gather. He doesn't take all the flashes, take all the recons, and go in and find the first pick. At least most of the time. But the Defo that we saw at Berlin was capable of doing that, even against better competition at Berlin. He had certainly moments where he looked like he was able to play at that kind of level. I'm thinking about the Haven performance against Envy, and when he played against 100 Thieves and he's just running around with knives, dunking on them when they're an incredibly skilled team. And I think what my perspective was of Defo from that event was, I think Gambit just viewed Jett differently. I think Gambit just viewed Jett as, we don't want to take the risk of having Defo make a low percentage based on whether you're hitting the shots that day kind of play. And instead, we want to try and make maximized percentage plays where even though the guy could maybe pop off, he's part of the system. And I think even though he's not at the same level as all the other Jetts that are on the list, I think he's still a good enough player to be able to get into the top 20 list.
Yeah, it's the trouble with the top 20 list that we already hashed at the beginning is that there are many players that deserve to be in the top 20, but in terms of how I weighed it, I see Defo's impact as a player coming more from the team environment that he plays in and his role in that team, which is more subdued. I agree with you, definitely capable of it, but I Yeah.
That was-
You said you were the only person who had him.
That was
Yeah.
kind of my general thought on it too. Okay, Brent, you got to tell me about Zeppa 14.
I'm high up on the Zephyr stocks, man.
Okay.
I am high up on the Zephyr stocks. This
You
guy
gotta
opened
sell
my
me.
eyes. He turned me into a believer. I'm with Van Silly and the cult of KO now. I am absolutely a believer. Zephyr, mechanically, I thought that this guy was unreal, like actually just popping the fuck off, holding it down at times as well for this team. Similar argument I'm using for Leaf in terms of how high I'm weighing up Leaf here as well, is that I think the caliber of opponents that they played against in NALCQ were top notch and some of the best practice you can get coming into the tournament. I'm anticipating Zephyr to carry that forwards. On top of the fact that he has so many of these niche little pocket picks, including the KO, that make Cloud9 such a threat, man. I see them as like a real team that teams are going to be trying to look and they're like, what do we prep for here? Cloud9 seemed to figure out exactly what they wanted to play the KO comps on and play more default normal stuff on later over the course of NALCQ, but it's still a threat. You never know if they're going to be capable of bringing this stuff out. And Zephyr is a core reason for this. This guy plays KO to such a high level that one individual pick and how it can condition your opponents and just fuck up the prep for your team really puts him up highly. But it's not just that, it's also the numbers that he puts up. The guy's an absolute menace. Like, look at the numbers in the games at NALCQ. He was popping the fuck off.
He really heated up as the tournament went on. The finals, and mostly it was actually his raise was where he was dropping the crazy numbers. But I don't have faith he's going to be able to do it consistently. I haven't seen enough from Zephyr. We've been hearing about Zephyr being amazing in scrims and like all of this shit for months now. But the actual only data we have about Zephyr being able to play at that level comes from like 3 matches. It was those 3 after they lost to Rise, really, where he started to go crazy mode. Even before that, the KO was good and unique, but I don't think deserving to get onto the top 20 list.
But
it's
I
his
like
nuts shit towards the end that makes the argument, and I just don't think there's enough.
But I'm not saying it because they're not playing a KO all the time anymore.
No.
They're putting him onto roles that he does play more comfortably and he still pops off on it.
Well, he goes even harder on the raise, yeah.
Right. But it's the fact that he has that threat in his back pocket that can condition a team against you before the game even begins. It's something that you have to consider and think about and prep and play around at all times, which I value very highly, as you can see.
I was wondering whether to try and slip him in towards the bottom, but I think even if you compare him to who Connor's got in Sick, Sick's been consistently better in that duelist role for a longer period of time, and I have
more
faith
flexible.
For Sick's.
He's able to do more, like for his team in many ways. I think
Kind of. I mean, some of his flexibility did hurt Sentinels at the event.
True.
And the fact that he wasn't really that comfortable on Sky, I think, actively hurt them. But yeah, it's a weird one. Also, Zephyr doesn't play the normal roles as much.
Yeah.
He played like Sage, Raze, and KO for them.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to move on to the next?
Let's move on. Number 15. Okay, so we've got Leaf here for Connor, Buzz for Wyatt. I've got Murray's.
God, this guy.
I thought I
it's
would
a
be.
Freaky Friday situation.
I thought I would be the. I thought I'd be the only one with 2 Brazilians on a list.
Nope.
There's
I've
no
got
way.
Okay.
I've got the Vivo Keyed guys here because I really feel like they proved it. They were. I mean, lest we forget, they proved proved to some degree that the team actually didn't go deep enough for them to be able to prove it against everybody. But of the games that they played, they were the best duelist duo at the event. The 2 of them combined. There's some argument to be made for like Kellox and Nookie because they were both really high up as well at Berlin. But Heat and Murray's had breakout tournaments that proved they are of the same caliber as the other players that we consider star players around the world. If Heat and Murray's were at I don't know, if they were naturally American players or something, they'd be considered nutcase players within North America, and they'd be considered one of the best duelist duos. I mean, bro, Murray's might end up playing Sova, actually, at this event, from little snippets of info. Maybe MW0 is going to be picking up the duelist. This is based on him playing duelist. If he's not playing duelist, and if instead he's playing Sova, I don't anticipate him having this kind of impact where he would break into top 15. But I'm still expecting the guy to be pretty good and someone you should be keeping an eye out for. I think, frankly, Heat and Murray's being this high is the only reason Vivo Keyed have any chance in their group. And if you rate them too much lower, you're almost saying there's no chance they possibly get out the group. Because the only way they can get out is via muscle. And you have to accept then that they do have muscle even compared to the top teams. I think they can try and skill their way out of the group by diffing other people that they would otherwise be underrated compared to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't have Mariz on mine. He fell just outside of it, and it was because I think all of his best games were on Reyna, and when he was on the maps where he was playing Raze, he wasn't putting up the same numbers, and those are some of the crucial maps that they lost, like when they played against Crew on Split, and if he's having a bad game, they need Mariz to pop off, and he just wasn't on the Raze on Split. He just wasn't putting up the numbers. That's why he fell short of my list, but is somewhere in the probably 20 to 30 if you were to extend it further for me. But I'm not mad at that.
Also, Gutzera is paying me so much money for putting the Brazilian players on.
You better.
Okay, and we have Starzo from Bren as well.
So this is one of the
You were roasting Connor.
This is one of the instances where I thought I was going to get roasted for it, and Connor took the heat.
No, yeah.
I thought I was going to be the only one with stars this high, and you've got him at 12. So
yeah,
you've already made a case for him.
I already took the hit on this one.
It's a hard ask that he's at 15, to be honest, because of the recent performances. But
Where's Shados?
Yeah. Good question.
All right,
yeah,
16.
where is Shados?
Good question.
Where is 16? Okay, Connor's gone for Zeppa. Wyatt now gets to Leaf. Around the same area as Buzz, actually, which is where I had him. I just had the two of them higher up. This is where I get to Chronicle, actually. Because to me, Chronicle provided incredible rounds, or he was just doing all right. But I didn't think, watching the event, that Chronicle had the same, always getting impact that somebody like Nats was, or somebody like Shados was. He had certain moments where he electrified, and certain moments where we weren't really talking about him whatsoever, and it was all to do with what the rest of the team was up to. But when I think about Gambit, I think they have Nats, unbelievable player, does way more than his job, and then the rest of their team is pretty clustered together in terms of the value they get. I don't think there's a big gap between the rest of their players. I think they're such a good roster. Redgar maybe towards the bottom, but also IGLing. But those three players in the middle of Shados, Defo, and Chronicle carry pretty similar weight, I think, in their team. And that's why I've got them in pretty similar positions, actually.
Sure. You want to talk about everyone else here on this 16? We could see 17.
Yep, let's take a look at 17. Oh my word. Okay. This is where I finally put Shazam.
17.
This is where I finally put Shazam. I told you I felt terrible putting him this far down here. And it's clearly the biggest drop that any player has gotten out of a single tournament.
17 spots in yours. Didn't you have a number one?
I think so, yeah.
Or number one, number two, something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, the guy did not have. It's not that the guy didn't have a good event, but there were so many flaws with what Sentinels were doing, and his jet wasn't hitting either compared to the competition, which it was. I mean, it was just dominating in Reykjavik. So I want to talk about FNS here, Wyatt.
Okay.
FNS is not a player that gets that much impact with his rifling in the server compared to the other people on your list. They all of them get levels more impact with their rifling. Arguably, Stacks is maybe the closest.
The thing was, though, I don't think that was as much of the case at Berlin. I think individually, outside of the very first map against VivoKeyed, FNS was playing a great tournament. And previously in the Champions and the qualifier run-up, I remember thinking at that time, too, that FNS is playing the best tournament I've seen him play all year. I think his individual form since the Yay acquisition has also been really good. I think he's been really good in the clutch situations, and also credit for IGLing the team. He gets the IGL credit, and he gets his form as of late, I think has been really excellent. And maybe he's flown under the radar a little bit, but I think he's been really reliable for the team in the clutch. And I think his rifling isn't as... I think his individual performance may be flying under the radar, but for me, it was of note that he was in such good form in the Champions qualifier and at Berlin.
Connor, you've got Mako here. You do not have Buzz on your list, so far,
I don't.
Your top players from Vision Strikers are Stacks and Mako. I thought Mako looked really pretty fucking good. One of the better smoker players there. Have you got Marved above him, or have you got him as your top smoker player at the event?
I actually think so. I do. The thing is, I'm trying to play a little. I'm trying to play it. No, not trolling. I'm not trying to troll. I think the two best smoke players at this event are probably going to be Marved and Mako. Honestly, I think Mako was fucking insane at Berlin. No joke. I was super impressed with him. And Buzz, I do think probably if I'm including Mako, Buzz should probably be on this list. But I think overall, there's like I'm trying to weight the roles here a bit because we're doing a top 20 player list, and I'm trying to weight the roles. I'm trying to give like a lot of credence to like when I think about the impact on the server of like the supportive players as well, and like how much those teams functions with them. And duelists are just such a. It's like, yeah, they get a lot of fucking kills, but what are all the supporting pieces?
Dime a dozen
behind them
bitches.
their
Is that
kills?
what you're saying? There's so many duelists.
I think just we need someone here to represent the unwashed masses of support players. So there's all these elite, clothed in silk and gold duelist players that everyone worships at the feet of. But what about those that are they're hoisting the palanquin? Those that do the dirty jobs that you don't see, the shit you want to get done. And yeah, I could have put Buzz in here. But I feel like if I put Buzz in here, I start opening up the door to like, I'm just going to put every duelist player,
Yeah.
That was kind of
my line of reasoning.
I found it difficult to shut that door. I'm not
I
gonna lie.
agree. I was between Buzz, Mako, and almost King on this list of who I wanted to put in. I ended up going with Buzz because of the numbers, but yeah, Mako was definitely one of the top controllers at the event.
I think he's like going to be potentially the best smoke player, but at least at the very worst, like the second best.
He might be. He was crazy good for them.
I do think he's good, but I don't know if he deserves a spot in the top 20 because his role for me was very much defined to. He at times played incredibly isolated from the rest of his team, and he wasn't. His job was to essentially not die, but get value from providing the aerial support in RTS mode, from one side of the map to the other.
Sure. Bit of flank watch.
Yeah, and he's watching the flanks, and his value that he gains is passive, but as an individual player, sure. I mean, he's very good, but...
I think I probably should have put Marv over him, but I probably would have, if I revised this list, because I didn't do a second pass, by the way. I just did this, like, snapped it out. If I had done a second pass, I probably would have put Marv above him, but still kept him in the list, I think. But still, I think he's really good. I think he deserves to be towards the bottom of the list just because his inner performance is so good. And I also think that Vision Strikers are probably going to reformulate a bit. And like, hopefully we'll get to see like a bit of a different formula for them moving in to champs. And I still think he'll be a key player for them in the way that he himself plays. So I like it. And also I put this to talk about the other picks a little bit more, like Leaf and Zeppa. I think they deserved, I think C9, they played so explosively that they both have to be on the list. I just think they haven't had enough experience at the tier 1 level left in Valorant yet. Like they haven't played enough like tier 1 Valorant against tier 1 players to be high on this list, because like their biggest breakout performance was LCQ.
Yeah.
So I just don't think there's enough for me at least to put them higher. So yeah, that's pretty the reasoning. But I definitely would have put Marv above them and like reformulated Starkso if I'd done a second pass of this list.
Okay, let's go on to number 18 here then and take a look. So we have Link from Wyatt and from Bren.
Let's go.
See, I was debating this
somewhere.
I was debating this and trying to sneak Link into here, and I could not justify it. And actually, what I found that my initial thoughts about Liquid were Scream best player, then Yampi, then Link, then Nivera, then Soulcast, probably something like that. And actually, when I sat down and I reasoned it out a little bit more, I think that Nivera is getting more impact than Link is recently. And so I just couldn't put Link on my list. I think Link has been amazing across the history of playing with Liquid. He's occasionally even been arguably the best player for Liquid. But in recent times, he's taken a much, much more supportive role and is not even having the same impact as their brand new player. So Link did not make the list to me, and I'm surprised because I am a Link simp.
This guy.
Lip sync.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Josh on that. I think I would have had Link on this list too as the resident support like dude that's trying to like break out of the dirty duelist centric Valorant top 20 list. But I think Nivera has actually been having more impact than him recently.
See, do you want to go first, Wyatt, with this?
Sure. I mean, I have him on there partly for history because I think he's been the most consistent player. I mean, they have two really consistent players in Scream and Link, but Link alongside Scream has been unbelievably consistent for Liquid all year. And I think he's one of the best late round players in the game right now.
For sure.
That's why I still have him on there. And I think heading into the tournament, he's one of the... I mean, he plays a bit of a strange role where he's like kind of on the breach sometimes, but he's mostly the controller. I think he's one of the top controllers coming in. And when he does play breach, his setup for Scream is really damn good. And so for me, a little bit of history on this one, but still, it's not like he's fallen off coming in. They just have so much firepower on the team, but I value very highly how good he is in the late round and in clutches and winning crucial rounds for the team based on that.
I'm the same.
That he squeaks in there for me near the bottom of the list.
He's good for a couple sometimes when he's put in those clutch situations. He plays a multitude of roles for the team. And I think he's just being able to keep up with consistency over the course as the game has developed has been pretty impressive. A lot of players in his role where he is kind of falling into that almost role player for the team, they do kind of fall to the wayside over enough time. But he's remained up there for the team. He's been such a critical part of their success, I think, as well. And definitely Yampi and Navira kind of stealing the limelight a little bit recently, but up there.
Yeah. Connor, you are a little Cloud9 simp. You've got Leaf, Zeppa, and Zeta all on your top 20. You cannot be telling me you're not expecting Cloud9 to win or something.
I mean, well, the thing is, I don't think there's not enough past results for me to like immediately say like this team should dominate, but their LCQ performance was fucking nasty. I'm not going to put them all high up on this list because I think there are other players that are consistently competing. I mean, like when you have like Gambit that have been playing at the top of EU now and also won Berlin, like C9 hasn't won any major events other than LCQ, which is also essentially the bottom of the barrel, like in terms of like the tier 1 teams, that the teams that are competing to go to champs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily argue as like the competition is the peak, but I was super fucking impressed with C9. I think they were by far the most complete team at LCQ. And when you watch their gameplay and the individual playmaking ability alongside just how great they were from round to round, not only their set plays, but also just like really, really good mid-round adaptation and execution on like all their everything that they did. It's hard not to include more, like a lot of members of them. For me, at least, I was a huge fucking fan of them. They're my dark horse to win the event for sure. C9 is my dark horse to win the event. I love how they play. I think when I go back and look at this though, I think it was hard for me not to put Zeta on here still, just because I think the guy's fucking crazy. Every time I like the guy gives me wow factor when I watch him play. I think he's like sick. I think his impact on
like
C9
or like Shazam.
Well, no, but okay, yeah.
Sorry, I apologize.
I think his impact is hard.
I mean, it's just egregious.
That's just egregious.
That is just egregious behavior from the host. Can we see number 19?
Yeah, let's go to number 19.
Yeah, let's just do number 19.
Okay, so this is where Connor's got heat. This is where Wyatt's got sick. I've actually got Victor here instead of sick. When I was thinking about the flex players, I valued Victor's play a little more just because he'd been able to develop so much on the Sky. And I feel like that's a big miss that Sick didn't add to the team. When I was thinking actually about the Sentinels players, with Sick and with Dapper, I found it very difficult to... I wanted to put Dapper on the bottom of the list just because he's always been absolutely great. He just had one bad tournament. But Sick, I already was rating Dapper higher than Sick, and I also think that even though Sick individually performed with his like rifling to whatever degree at the at Berlin, he was one of the problems for the team being actually able to succeed and adapt to the meta. So I just haven't got him on my list at all. I've got Victor there instead, who I don't think was lights out, but I think was just good. Just really good and very flexible.
A brief defense of the Sick in 19 is, for me, he still had some very good maps at Berlin, though the issue with those for me were that they were all Phoenix on Haven. It's the other maps where there was a bit of a problem. But I think Sick, in his entirety as a player, has shown enough of an ability to be able to play multiple agents that I have faith in him being able to find another agent to play on the other maps where he will have success for the team, aside from just the Phoenix on Haven with the time between Berlin and Champions. And based on that, I just couldn't, I didn't have it in me I couldn't take him off the list. He's still proven so much over time, and he still clearly had the individual level at Berlin. It was just a matter of being on the right agents on the right maps, or Sentinels having the right game plan as a whole, and not trying these other comps, kind of on the fly, like that last split one where he was on Sky, whatever. I think that with more time, I have faith in him to perform well still at Champions. So he doesn't drop off of it for me, but goes near the bottom.
Okay. Number 20. Let's get our final picks
I had
on the top 20.
a crazy one for this.
Kesnet is making it onto the list. Okay, the belief in South America is up there to the max. I mean, you've got Sassy on there as well. Sassy hasn't done anything since Reykjavik, though.
Well, they have played games.
He's been playing like Jett and Sova.
And his numbers are crazy. He's still been pounding all year. He hasn't played a match in a couple months because of the way the VCT schedule works.
Right.
He just hasn't played a match in a while. So I had a bunch of players in mind that I think you could put a ton of different players potentially in 20th. I put him there because I expected he's going to have a really good performance. He's been nothing but consistent. He still puts up really good numbers on Sova and Jett. Either he's playing. I think that also with the group that he's in, which has like Crazy Raccoon and Secret, I think, or like Crazy Raccoon. Yeah, Crazy Raccoon and Secret. I think that Saucy should be able to be the best player in all those matches and kind of style on those teams, honestly. I think he's a player capable of that. So I think walking away from the event, no matter how Vikings do, even if they lose to Crazy Raccoon and go out, or they beat Crazy Raccoon and go into the quarterfinals, which is a possibility, I think that Saucy is going to be the star player of that team, and people are going to be paying more attention to him on maybe the global scale from that. So he makes it into 20th for me because of that.
He is a good player. I had to put Nivera here. I mean, I just had to. The more I was thinking about it, I've already discussed it a little bit, but Nivera he's played 2 relatively long tournaments now. It wasn't just like Berlin where you play a group stage. Vision Strikers played 3 matches and they're gone. He's played the whole of LCQ now with Liquid, and he played the Red Bull Homegrounds tournament where they've been playing against teams that are champions calibers, at least mid-champions. You've got teams like Guild there, Fnatic, G2, Ascend. He's played more matches than some of the people that we have to rate, like the Vision Strikers guys coming into the tournament. So it's not that he has a tiny sample size to work with. I feel like we've got a decent idea of what he's going to perform like at Champions. And I don't know how, but he gets his fucking fingers stuck in every pie. In every round, he's just involved in everything. Like the kid on the rugby field that will charge 40 meters in the other direction just to get stuck into a scrum that they had no involvement in. You know that kind of player in your school that just wants to be involved in every scrap, boundless energy, and always wants to get something done. That's Nivera at the moment. He's constantly finding value, and the addition to this team has been a jolt of electricity for Liquid.
Oh, yeah.
He is just superbly consistent in the games that he's played so far, and he has enough of a pedigree coming from Counter-Strike that I don't see him dropping off a cliff when it comes to Champions. He's only in the 20th position right now because it's so new, but I have also rated him kind of incidentally as the second Sentinel player at the event. There's Nats at number 1, and I've bookended it with Nivera at 20. I think Dapper, of course, would be able to get onto the list as well. But those are kind of the 3 players that I'm really looking at to make magic happen from that role. Nivera's got to be with them.
Yeah, he's up there for me. I put Link above him just because I think, again, Link is that consistency. I'm wondering where the ceiling of Nivera is as an individual. Because that man, I mean, he's got some promise about him. He's already showcased it. The fundamentals are so fucking clean when he's in that team. Just the way he plays off everybody. And they look like a real threat. The back of his
Plays a lot of roles, too. Plays a lot of roles. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to defend Kesnet. And then we're moving on from this topic that's already taken us 13 hours.
Because I don't rate Brazil, and Kesnet fucking owns. And Kesnet fucking owns, and I think I probably should have put honestly, if I was being true to myself, I should have put like Nivera or maybe like, I don't know, maybe even like Buzz or Link if I was being true to myself, but I have to Vamos. I cannot Vamos. I simply must Vamos.
crew.
And I won't put a Brazilian player. And because Heat's the only one in my list that's currently proven that I think they deserve to be on a top 20 list from Brazil. So
Okay. All right.
There
Fair
you
enough.
have
There has it. So just as a final little aside, I totaled up where everyone took their teams. So like which teams were most people coming from, and then I actually added them all up afterwards too. So you can see like the Cloud9 simp, for example, Avast with 3 of the players from Cloud9. I've got the most players from Gambit on the list. I just thought this was interesting. If you're interested, just pause the video and have a look through and see. I mean, like Wyatt's the only one with someone from Team Vikings. And then overall, I actually thought this was really interesting, because it kind of implies it's almost implying we think Envy is the most pound for pound skilled team. It's not that they're the best team, but it's also
They might be.
It's almost implying that they
really
are.
might be.
Yeah, that they have like maybe the best player talent.
Yeah.
Gambit, I think, probably have the best system, or maybe you could argue that about Liquid or something, but the results of Berlin seem to have driven us to believe that Envy have the best roster, which I can't even really be mad about. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, that's the gigantic mega topic for this episode, and we are going to move on. We are talking about having a episode the day before Champions as well. I think we should push the pick'ems till then, and do the group.
I agree.
Kind of talk about the groups, talk about the bracket next week, and so we'll just kind of dice through the final topics for today, which are that there was a really cool Riot produced videos that we wanted to highlight for everybody. We won't watch them because they're like 15 minutes long, but they're called Naturals, Naturals. Because it's like the players from NA.
Yeah.
And one of them was called El Diablo, and the other one was called 9 Lives or something.
9 Lives.
And they're really, really
I've only
good.
seen the Yay one, but it's really well produced. It's funny. There's like references to media in it. Like I think there was a Pulp Fiction reference at the end of the Yay one, for all you crypto bros out there. And
I mean, it starts with Crashies throwing darts and FNS looking out the window, replicating his all good face.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so fucking good.
I mean, it's incredible. And then it's
really
like, Ye rocks up in full cowboy outfit. And it's Baby Bay who's doing these interviews with them too.
I think it's smart as well that they get Baby Bay to do the interviews, because he's such a personality that it's almost a shame we're not really going to see him more.
Absolutely.
In recent times. So it makes sense that they'd want to include him in this role. And he was really good doing the interviews. He was, the one that I watched.
Yeah. He was good. He's got a great. I mean, I've always enjoyed making content with him too. He's great. And so it's just it's essentially like a really hype trailer intro, and then they go on to have a sit down conversation with the team and then the star player. And the star for Envy that they've identified is Ye, and the person they want to kind of build up to be that star IGL for Cloud9, and I think he is too, is Vanity, who's previously taken a team to Reykjavik. So check them out. They're great. It's great content, and it's funny as fuck. I mean, seeing Ye dressed up in cowboy outfit is just everything. It's just everything.
This is so good. I mean, not to just simp for the marketing again, not to just but it's just it's all hitting. Yeah, it's all just so good.
Yeah, it really is.
No one does it better. No one, literally. I don't think they're like the only esport that currently does their overall marketing better and content pushes is also Riot with League. So like, there's it's just crazy how well it's designed. The set pieces, all their assets always make sense. Like, since going into org work, I'm looking at this and it's like looking at like the 50-year-old ancient Nobel winning professor that's done some crazy shit, and you're just like a young student looking at the dojo, and you're like, man, like this guy, I want to be this guy one day. And like when you look at the stuff they do, like it's amazing, top to bottom.
I think they actually send some of this stuff out of house as well. They do a lot of like commissioning other companies that they know make excellent content.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes it so good,
too.
because they do really good delegation for it. Like they make sure, and it's still I'm sure they have like a brand or a manager or like a voice manager that's keeping it all within a consistent direction and integrating it. And that's the true power behind it.
I did not see this one.
It's
what
really
is
good.
happening? They're just all in a diner.
They're all at a diner, and then Baby Bay rocks up and kind of sits down with at each of them with a booth and kind of talks to them about Vanity and him joining the team. It's just a sick piece of content. It's like perfect player story building heading into your big tournament, driven by the players, but using the themes and the stories that have already been naturally built up within the community. It's excellent stuff. It's absolutely excellent stuff. So go and check it out. They've only released. They've done Yay and Vanity so far.
It is so fucking good.
There's got to be one about Sentinels as well, I would imagine,
Surely,
because
right?
it's the 3 NA teams that are going. So I don't know who they would even hit on. I mean, maybe Tens or maybe Shaz. Or
well, they already
I don't
had
know.
like Tins content pieces and some of the other stuff they did, like in like the. So I feel like there's probably going to be some sort of Tins piece of content.
Yeah, he's posted like it looked like an image from like a photo
really?
shoot or something. Yeah, it was like a very professionally done photo.
Sure.
I'm assuming it would be Tens, but
Yeah. Okay, well, the other thing that kind of hops on from this, we were at the Esports Awards, and Valorant won Esports Game of the Year at the Esports Awards. And I think that makes sense. I think that they're doing a lot of stuff extremely well this year. And this year really was kind of the year for Valorant. What do you think about this? Do you think Valorant's done? Do you think Valorant's done everything it could have done
for
this
my
year?
hobby?
Has it been? No, but what I mean is, has it been a perfect year for Valorant?
No.
no, of course not.
What kind of stuff do you think?
Pains.
What kind of stuff do you think they've done really well that deserves this award, and what kind of stuff would you think needs to be done better? Just big picture, like real big topic.
For me, it's having a new game and building it up in a way that seems like they are still considering the grassroots aspect of it. And there could be way better things in the future in terms of the formatting that they want to do, the events, the amount of events or whatnot. But in general, the game's hype, I feel like the fact that it's again tied in, by the way, little Easter egg in here, you can see me and Josh in the background.
Oh yeah, there you are.
Yeah, there's
I
me
just
and
saw
there's
Josh. Oh, there he is on the right.
There's Zed. There's Zed.
In this clip, we're at the back of it.
Very drunk.
Yeah, and I feel like they've done very well in terms of not just trying to speed run esports in Valorant. It's been a measured approach to a degree, and the growth has come from the natural hype and the player base just increasing and getting into it overall.
Yeah. I'm not really. Yeah, I don't know what the criteria of earning this award is based off of, but if it is for the marketing and the branding of the esports and the culture that they've kind of created around it with that, it is pretty great. All the storylines in Valorant of the teams that have come up naturally are amazing. They've just been excellent since the TSM versus Sentinel war of 2020 in the Ignition series. The storylines have been amazing. The marketing, the branding of the esport has been amazing. I think the growing pains of this year are with scheduling and tournament structure. I think that is the area where improvement needs to be made, because it does, while it does in a way, I feel like it almost generates hype for some of these tournaments for the wrong reason at times, where it's like, I'm just waiting. It's just yet again, I am that image of the skeleton at the PC, just waiting for tier 1 Valorant matches to happen. You're just waiting so long between them, and then with some of the stuff everyone knows the seeding games, and some of those tournament structures are just not ideal. I think that those are the areas of improvement, but as far as the appeal of the game, the marketing of the game, the content around it, all that shit has been knocked out of the park. It's really just about the schedule for me. Has been the growing pain.
I think the schedule is a huge one. Like the thing that I brought up earlier, the fact that Vision Strikers have only played 6 matches in 6 months against top competition is not acceptable for an esport where you have such great kind of content that you want to build around a team like that, but they don't have the narrative because they haven't been able to build it themselves. They haven't been able to build it in the server. You can only add so much shit to like best team from Korea when you haven't seen them play and seen what they're capable of and that kind of stuff. I mean, we also haven't seen Sentinels or Envy heading into this event. It's like a major flaw of this system. The other thing too, though, as well, is that the actual that's Kurt whilst doing our top 20 players segment earlier. The other thing too is the actual execution of the events has been a bit of a miss too. The PCs haven't been good enough at times. The execution of LCQ was tragic, like a major problem with how that event was executed. And it seems like every single time there's an event, there's something that's like not been thought of in terms of just giving them the requirements to play FPS games properly, be it like practice areas or PCs that are good enough for stuff like that. Hopefully it's growing pains, but I would have thought that was done after Reykjavik. And so I was concerned it was coming up for Berlin, and I will be very concerned if it also rears its head for Champions too, because it's almost like they're not learning and iterating.
Supposedly an explanation for that, and it's because they allocated all of their live event production budget at the beginning of the year, and they didn't realize exactly what they were getting into at times, and they can't go back and rechange their budget on an event per event basis, supposedly. That's like the rumor mill that's running around, but who actually knows if that's true or not, if that's at all correct.
Sure.
So.
And I could see how that would happen, because at the beginning of this year, they could not have anticipated that Reykjavik would break 1 million viewers. I don't believe there was some analyst at the back of Valorant saying, oh yeah, it actually seems pretty likely that this game's going to top 1 million for the first LAN event, and we should allocate funds based on that. Like, if you allocated funds at the beginning of the year, it does seem reasonable that you would evaluate where the game was going.
Yep.
But yeah,
in terms of hype and viewership, it's matched it. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just want to make sure that, or not make sure, I don't have any power in the situation, but I would hope that the Valorant team is looking to see what happened this year and try and push the momentum even harder in the future, because it might have seemed like an easy got it in the bag with NACS dying, but as LAN events start to rear their head and the CS circuit starts to churn its way into action again, there is going to be more and more competition for the viewers that are around events like this and the upcoming players and stuff like that. And if you don't get the basics of running the events, and if there aren't enough events, then Valorant's going to have one award for Esports Game of the Year instead of maybe a lot. So, okay, moving on. The next topic that we had before we close up is some breaking news from during the episode, which was 100 Thieves making roster changes, with Boy and Dicey leaving. Have they left? Have they been removed? I'm not sure here, but we'll get up the source and have a read through it. This is the tweet from 100 Thieves.
I mean, I didn't even know that. I guess was Dicey like a content creator on 100 Thieves?
He was just a sub, I think.
Or a sub?
Yeah,
sure.
I think he was a sub on the roster still.
I didn't even know he was still signed. Yeah. Maybe that's why he's not been on another team then.
They might have been trying to get a buyout for him.
They were trying to get a buyout for him, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've seen the rumor mill churning as to Dicey moving elsewhere. Trying out for, like Anbox or someone recently?
Yeah,
I think.
saw that.
And, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, Boy is a good player, but 100 Thieves are going to be like a top one in the world.
Yeah, and I think
it's just not ready for that.
I still think there's value to be had in Boy being picked up by some teams. Like, it's invaluable experience being behind the scenes of one of the top teams in NA and also playing for them. And he had his moments where, people were literally, blasting the guy and blaming losses on him, which were most of the times unfounded. But in general, I think that if Boy wanted to keep competing, he could. But also, he's in a pretty valuable position where he could, if he wanted to, also pivot into a bit more of the structure overarching a team.
Well, that's my question. Why is he not continuing in his role as analyst?
Because he wants to play. He told us he wants to keep playing. When we did the interview with him at LCQ, he said he wanted to keep playing.
Yeah, but part of the reason he went to an analyst role in the first place, he was saying, was because he felt like there weren't that many great opportunities, and he thought that this was going to be the best way to push his career forwards.
Yeah,
his stock is probably, I don't know, his stock doesn't feel particularly high right now because he's just come off the back of 100 Thieves failing to make champions after his recent addition back in as a player. I don't think his stock is going to be particularly high as a player looking on the open market currently. It seems weird to not continue with that idea of just grinding the game and learning things from behind the scenes. It makes me concerned that the duo of Boy Nitro is like maybe being broken apart because of the things that we heard previously about Nitro's decision making.
Right.
And we don't know at all, but it just seems weird because of how close Nitro and Boy were that there wouldn't be. Here we go. He's written a huge twit longer about it as well. Okay. Departed from Anbox in May, contacted by Frost to see if he was a sixth man. Something about 100 Thieves struck him differently, even if he wasn't going to be a starting player. So he would participate in practices, help the coaching staff, so that's how he came to have this title of analyst. Personally, he doesn't like the analyst title because Quote, that's not what I wanted to be or what I was even doing specifically. I did everything that a starting player would do, except that I was a backup, end quote. Interesting. Okay. What else?
I mean, he says at the bottom,
He's just looking
actively looking
still.
at new teams and all options for the upcoming competitive year.
So he might go back as a, but honestly, it seems like the
Here comes
analyst
that
role
boy.
based off that wasn't even one that he actually wanted to do initially. It was
Yeah.
kind of hoisted upon him. So like he probably does just still want to compete, but he might also be self-aware enough to where he reevaluates and is like, well, since he's had all opportunities, I mean, he could look to come back as a coach.
Yeah, I
potentially.
mean, I think he could come back as a player. I was just wondering why he
Yeah.
wouldn't have continued with 100 Thieves, but 100 Thieves by that didn't want to continue with him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he should have finished that foot longer with. Here comes that boy.
No.
Boy is still a good player though, and I think he could definitely end up on a I don't know, somewhere from the 8th to 16th spot teams.
yeah, definitely.
As a controller.
absolutely. Yeah.
He should definitely end up on a team around that area.
Okay, we're heading towards the 2.5 hour mark for this episode, and so now it's time for our favorite segment every single week. We're heading into Wyatt's weekly award.
Give me that damn trophy.
Dinner's almost ready, but right now, it's time for Wyatt's weekly award. That smells good.
This week-
That one always makes you laugh.
This is almost there's almost a somber note to this award,
Oh, really?
but it's also it's somber. It's going to David P. It's somber, but it's for his enduring in the Valorant scene and still remaining at the top despite having gone through a lot of hardships throughout that time, both in-game, out-of-game, dealing with silly narratives that people just like to say about him.
Yeah.
Sure.
And still, despite all that, remaining as one of the top players in EU for a long time.
Yep.
And now being still a great player, IGL, hopefully can find a home for 2021. But I think that he proved, despite this Giants team falling apart, which is disappointing because they were on the upward trajectory, he definitely proved that his stock as a player has not gone down as earlier in the year his removal from G2 may have, put that air around him that he's on the downwards. He's not going to remain a top player. No, he is, and he still has a lot of value. He still has a lot of value on the market as an IGL. So hoping to see him still in 2022 manage to find a good team or put some kind of project together, something along those lines.
Yeah, and IGLs really are such a scarce commodity.
Yeah.
In Europe, though, there are 2 IGLs currently looking for teams with, or maybe not. Yeah, no, they are looking for teams, right? Because Bonkar's not actually attached to Guild. It's only Leo and Safe that are. So, yeah, Bonkar and Yassine are trying to find a project to work on, presumably, and then you've got David P there as well. So that's much more to choose from than I would have thought there would be, thinking earlier in the year when there was such a dearth of them. But, there's projects get picked apart towards the end.
Yeah. He's really proved over this year, though, I think, with this Giants tenure, that he is here to stay.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's a good award, I think.
Yeah. I think at some point in the future, he will inevitably have to adjust how he's playing. But the fact that so far he's been able to adjust it by still getting value from the way that he was playing, he hasn't abandoned his style. He's just made his style work. I think at some point he might have to abandon that style and find something else that works for him. But he's making it work even when people know what he's known for.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly impressive. All right, worthy winner of Wyatt's weekly award this week. We will be back next week for a short episode, which is mainly just going to be the Overwatch Pick'ems with Bala, who might also...
Pick'ems.
Sorry, Overwatch Pick'ems.
Overwatch
Overwatch
Pick'ems.
Megalog.
Oh my
Valorant
God.
Champions Pick'ems. I do the same the other way as well, so it's only fair I sometimes throw one in this time around. The Valorant Champions Pick'ems. So Champions Pick'ems next week with Bala, who might be talking to the streets.
Oh,
he might be
yeah.
hearing the whisperings from the
His
streets.
ear to the ground in Berlin.
He's got his ears to all sorts of places. So we'll see what happens then, and we'll see you next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.